Chapter 2291. Luli was a good judge of character. Also, he believed that Mu Yingying would not take the risk. Otherwise, if he destroyed the mountain, all her efforts would be in vain. For the sake of the Nine Wonders Mountain, Mu Yingying was willing to take the risk and leave with him. She would not have any evil thoughts. Mu Yingying put Luli into her interspatial artifact, which was a red bead. It was beautiful and spacious. Luli felt he was in a small world when he went in. Mu Yingying put away Luli and ran away. She only said hello to some people on her way. She went to the teleportation formation and teleported away. She was an immortal lady, and nobody dared to question her. They thought she was going to welcome some important guests. But Mu Yingying's actions did catch some attention. The Mu family was a big family, and they had a branch that kept an eye on the island of God Husbandry. Today, all of them were on the move. Any unusual movements would be known immediately. A patriarch with a dark face hurried to the hall of God Husbandry. The birthday celebration had begun, and some guests had arrived. The patriarch walked to Mu Wanyun and reported in a low voice, "Chief Patriarch, Immortal Lady has just left. She is teleported to the Dragon Husbandry Island." "What is going on?" Mu Wanyun's eyes turned cold. She was enraged out of instinct. She had asked someone to get Mu Yingying twice. She didn't expect that Mu Yingying would not come. Instead, she just left? Was she out of her mind? What could be more important than today's event? Something is not right. Mu Wanyun calmed down. Mu Yingying had always been a good girl and never did anything out of line. She wouldn't act rashly on such an important occasion. If so, then something big must have happened. She thought about it and waved her hand. "Brother, hey, go and find out. Send someone to check. Something might have happened to Yingying. Remember to keep a low profile and don't make a big scene." This patriarch was the person in charge of the secret department of the Mu family. He nodded and left quietly. However, after the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, he came back with an awful expression. He whispered to Mu Wanyun, "Brother Lu sent me a message. God Lu is gone." "What?" Mu Wanyun felt his head was about to explode. Mu Yingying just sensed something was wrong, and now Luli was gone? It wouldn't matter if it was during normal times. But it was Mu Wanyun's birthday. He should have disappeared last night. He explained, just now, the palace of Rakshasa was about to come over to get Lu Li, but he was not in his room. Our men searched, but found nothing. Now I have arranged for people to conduct a comprehensive and secret search on the island. In addition, Mu Wanru is also missing. This time, Mu Wanyun was completely speechless. After saying a few words to Mu Wanshan, he hurriedly left with Old Black. There were many people in the Great Hall. When they saw Mu Wanyun leave in a hurry with an unsightly expression, they started to discuss among themselves. If it wasn't something big, Mu Wanyun wouldn't have left this place. After all, the birthday banquet was about to begin, and the old man was about to come out. With so many esteemed guests here, how could Mu Wanyun leave this place? What happened? This thought appeared in the minds of countless people. All the major forces of Devil Sea had people here. At this time, no one would cause trouble. Could it be that someone from the outside world had invaded Devil Sea? Over at the manor of the palace of Devil's Palace, Chief Patriarch looked gloomy as well. The sudden disappearance of Lu Li enraged him. Lu Li was the chosen one, and he had a sense of propriety. He could not have wandered around nearby by himself. Lu Li's sudden disappearance gave Chief Patriarch a bad feeling. Did something happen to Lu Li? Was he assassinated by the Hell Island? But all the warriors of the Hell Island had gone to attend the birthday banquet. What was more, there were so many powerful warriors at the Shepherd Island, and Lu Li was not a weak warrior. It was unlikely that he would be killed without a trace. Chief Patriarch didn't take any action. The Mu family had started searching all over the world. It didn't matter whether Chief Patriarch moved or not. If the Mu family could not find Lu Li, it would be pointless for him to go with someone. Yuan Lingyun and the others were standing at the side. Everyone's eyes were filled with worry, and Yuan Lingyun's worry was even more intense. She was not worried that something had happened to Lu Li. She was worried that the fact that she had helped Lu Li would be discovered. She knew that Lu Li had left, or else the Mu family would have found him. Lu Li was gone. Whether he could be captured or not, At least he would lose his position as the chosen one. She had a chance to ascend. But now that the fact that she had helped Luli was exposed, she wouldn't be able to stand out in the Palace of Devils, even if she could survive. What was more, she had some special feelings for Luli. She might not be able to see him again for the rest of her life. It was inevitable that she would feel sad and disappointed. Various emotions intertwined together, causing Yuan Lingyun's expression to become very ugly. Fortunately, everyone's expression was ugly at the moment, and no one cared about what Yuan Lingyun was thinking. Time passed bit by bit. After an hour, a man walked in and said with a gloomy expression, "Elder Lu, I just received news that your godson went to Dragon Husbandry Island. He's currently flying towards the north on the Godspeed boat. Our immortal lady is with him. We don't know the details yet." Dragon Husbandry Island? Chief Patriarch's expressions changed. He and the other patriarchs looked at each other. They all had a bad feeling. Why did Luli leave without saying goodbye? Why was he flying to the north on the Godspeed boat? What was he doing? Can it be? A glint of coldness rose in Chief Patriarch's eyes. A thought came to his mind. Was Luli running away? Was he leaving the Devil's Sea? It was said that he was forced to join the Palace of Devils. Now that he had a chance, was he going to run away? The thing was, Luli had the mysterious heaven talisman in his soul. If he dared to run away, he would be doomed. Also, why was he with the immortal lady of the Mu family? They didn't know each other before. Why would they go to the Dragon Husbandry Island together? More importantly, they didn't inform anyone. It seemed that Mu Ingying didn't even inform anyone from the Mu family. Chief Patriarch thought about it and said, "How is the Mu family dealing with this? Do you need us to cooperate? Do we go after them together? We have arranged for someone to intercept them. All the warriors at the north have received the message, and they will intercept them. You can't catch up with them even if you go. You know how fast the Godspeed boat is." That patriarch shook his head and asked, "Patriarch Lu, I want to know if there was anything special about Luli before. Did he leave any message?" "Did he?" Chief Patriarch glanced at Lu Qianqian and Yuan Lingyun. Luli was the closest to them. If he had left any message, he would have told them. Yuan Lingyun shook her head. Lu Qianqian said, "Last night we all went to the banquet. Luli said he didn't want to see Sui Weqin, so he stayed in his room alone. We didn't ask too many questions. We wanted to wake him up today, but he was not here." "Right." Lu Qianqian thought of something and said, "Your immortal lady didn't show up last night either. Many people are wondering why she didn't show up. Could it be that they were together last night?" "What are you talking about?" Chief Patriarch scolded. That being said, everyone was having doubts. Luli and Mu Ingying were acting strangely last night. Now, they went to the Dragon Husbandry Island together and flew to the north together. Nobody would believe that there was nothing going on between them. Whoosh, after waiting for a moment, two figures flew over. Everyone's divine perception swept over and discovered that it was an elder of the Mu clan flying over quickly with an old woman. The great elder was very familiar with that old woman. She was the person beside Luo Fian. Chapter 2292. Take him down and bring his body back. Everyone at the Palace of Devils was taken aback by the old lady's words. Luo Fian's intention was clear. She wanted to kill Lu Li. As for why he wanted to kill Lu Li, the reason was clear. Lu Li had run away. Lu Li cracked the mysterious heaven talisman and escaped on the god boat. He was out of the dragon-raising island and was running to the north of the Devil's Sea. It would only take him half a day to get out of the Devil's Sea. Once he was out, it would be difficult to catch up with him. "How dare you?" Patriarch Feng, the vice-patriarch of the clan of warfare, was not happy with Lu Li since Lu Li talked back to him. Patriarch Feng was filled with killing intent. He looked at Chief Patriarch and said coldly, "Chief Patriarch, let's go after him. We will be in trouble if he gets out of the Devil's Sea. All of you go ahead. I will have someone from the Mu family send you a message along the way." Chief Patriarch waved his hand and said to Yuan Lingyun and the others, "Behave yourself and go to the old man's birthday, as usual. The gift is here. Qianqian will represent us." Chief Patriarch gave Lu Qianqian an interspatial ring and then asked the patriarch of the Mu family, "Where is Brother Wanyan?" Take me to him. Chief Patriarch left with the patriarch of the Mu family in a hurry. Patriarch Feng went to the teleportation formation with a group of patriarchs. Lu Qianqian and the others felt they had lost their leader and were at a loss of what to do. Let's go. Let's pretend nothing happened. Yuan Lingyun forced herself to calm down. She felt bitter inside. Luli could go, but why did he have to take Mu Yingying with him? This could get out of hand. Chief Patriarch met Mu Wanyun in a castle. Apart from Mu Wanyun, there were several other patriarchs here. One was a patriarch of the clan of intelligence, and the other two were patriarchs with real power. Chief Patriarch walked in. Mu Wanyun put on a bitter smile and sighed. Brother Lu, your divine son has gotten me killed. I think the old man is going to be furious. He is no longer the divine son of our family. Chief Patriarch said coldly. He has betrayed us. Our master has given the order to hunt him down, dead or alive. Betrayed us? Mu Wanyun's expression changed greatly as he said in a deep voice, My sacred lady is with him. Could she be being held hostage by him? It doesn't matter if it's a hostage or not. The great elders said urgently, I beg Brother Wanyun to help me. Think of a way to stop him. Can you send some people to open the realm gate to stop him? Sure. Mu Wanyun nodded and said, However, this place is too close to the coastline. He's riding on a Godspeed boat, and he could change his route at any time. Although I've already ordered everyone in the north to intercept him, it will probably be useless. Whether he succeeds or not will depend on fate. Guards! Mu Wanyun said in a deep voice, Order people of the Hall of Warfare to move out. Open the space gate and intercept them. Don't kill Lu Li, just stall him. If we can take him down, that would be for the best. Also, ask the elders and consecrators of the Dark Hall to take action. Also, Mu Wanyun's orders had practically never stopped. Send word to all the elders overseeing the north. Have them all move out, and have the people from the intelligence hall coordinate with them. We must stop the Godspeed boat. It was the birthday of the patriarch of the Mu family. Most of the powerful warriors of the Mu family were at the God Shepherding Island. Many powerful warriors came as guests today as well. Therefore, Mu Wanyun couldn't send too many people out for fear that something might happen at the God Shepherding Island. But Luli was only one person. He had mobilized at least 30 warriors of the Fourth Tribulation realm and thousands of warriors. Together with scouts, he had mobilized almost 10,000 people. Therefore, Mu Wanyun was confident that he could stop Lu Li. Patriarch Feng and the others had gone after him. As long as they could stop him, it would be the Palace of Rakshas's business to deal with Lu Li. The chief patriarch didn't go after him because Lu Li was not particularly powerful. Patriarch Feng was the vice patriarch of the Hall of Warfare, and he was quite capable. It would be more than enough for him to bring 8 patriarchs with him to capture Lu Li. One more chief patriarch was not a big deal. Patriarch Feng could be informed of the situation at any time so that he could make plans at ease. Mu Wanyun blocked off the information. Almost all the guests here didn't know what was going on, but they all felt something was not right. After all, the fact that Mu Wanyun didn't show up was a big problem in itself. Also, the chief patriarch and the others didn't show up. Only Yuan Lingyun and the other representatives were here. Mu Yingying didn't show up either. Nobody would believe that there was nothing wrong. Of course, the guests didn't point this out. They all pretended that they didn't know. The old patriarch came out as well. He didn't show any strange emotions on his face. He accepted the congratulations with a smile. The old patriarch didn't even ask why Mu Wanyun and Mu Yingying didn't come. The old patriarch had lived for so many years and was all-powerful at the Rakshasa Sea. What had he not seen? If something big had happened, he would have been told. Since it was nothing, why would he ask? It would affect his mood. The group of people were all polite people. Everyone continued to eat, drink, and have fun. They all pretended not to know anything. Only Lu Qianqian and Yuan Lingyun felt uncomfortable. Yuan Lingyun was worried that the fact that she helped Lu Li would be exposed. Lu Qianqian was wondering why Lu Li betrayed them. Young girls' feelings were like poems. Lu Qianqian had a special feeling for Lu Li as well. It hadn't evolved into love yet, but there was some affection. Lu Li's sudden betrayal made her feel pain and sadness. Time moved on bit by bit. Mu Wanyan didn't show up. 2 hours later, a piece of news was sent to the Mount God, which almost made Mu Wanyan lose his temper. Some patriarchs went to the north to intercept Lu Li, and they succeeded. However, Lu Li appeared outside with Mu Yingying as a hostage. The two patriarchs didn't dare to do anything. They just watched Lu Li leave again. Mu Yingying was being held hostage. No wonder Mu Yingying would go to the Dragon Raising Island with Lu Li. No wonder Lu Li and Mu Yingying were acting strangely last night. Something must have happened last night. Did Lu Li spend the night with Mu Yingying? On this thought, Mu Wanyan couldn't contain his killing intent anymore. Holding Mu Yingying as a hostage was a small matter. But if Lu Li had violated Mu Yingying's chastity, then it would be a huge problem. Get Wanshan here, Mu Wanyan shouted. After some thoughts, he waved his hand and said, "Never mind. I will go in person." Mu Yingying was in Lu Li's hands. Mu Wanyan was afraid that Mu Wanshan might be hesitant to make a decision and miss an opportunity. Mu Wanyan looked to Chief Patriarch and said, "Brother Lu, let's go together. Let's see if we can intercept him. This traitor of your family is really something. He even dares to hold my great-granddaughter hostage. He is so lawless." "Ha ha," Chief Patriarch said with a bitter smile. Back in the days, he once held Su Yuqin hostage at the Hell Palace and destroyed her elixir. That grandnephew of Brother Meng of the Third Sect is a living dead now. He went to our palace of Luo and turned the world upside down as well. A man like him will cause trouble wherever he goes. Let's go and get rid of this trouble. Chapter 2293. Mu Wanyan had blocked the information about Lu Li and tried not to let it spread out. But when the news that Mu Yingying was being held hostage by Lu Li came back, inevitably, the news spread out of the Mount Mu God. Who was Mu Yingying? She was the goddess of the Mu family, the favorite descendant of the patriarch of the Mu family. She was one of the most powerful young ladies at the Rakshasa Sea. Her every move was watched by many. The news that Mu Yingying was being held hostage was spread out the north, and so was the news. The patriarch of the Mu family didn't tell him for fear that he would be disturbed. Instead, people from the Palace of Heaven and the Hell Palace knew. Lu Li betrayed us? He is holding Mu Yingying and running to the north? When the 10 patriarchs from the Hell Palace heard the news, their eyes glowed. Lu Li was the shame of the entire Hell Palace. As long as he was alive, the Hell Palace would be shamed. Some patriarchs of the Hell Palace even proposed to assassinate Lu Li, but the idea was turned down by the master. After all, they were here for a birthday celebration, and they didn't want to upset the patriarch of the Mu family. How could happiness come so suddenly? Lu Li had betrayed them, and the palace of Rakshasa was after him. He was holding Mu Yingying, and the Mu family was after him as well. If so, it was perfectly justifiable for the Hell Palace to hunt him down. The 10 patriarchs couldn't sit still anymore, not to mention Su Yuqin. For her, Lu Li was her nightmare. Recently, she would wake up in the middle of the night, and all she could think about was Lu Li's face. Every day, she wished she could tear Lu Li into pieces. Su Yuqin communicated with a group of patriarchs at once and urged them to go after Lu Li. The patriarchs were tempted. In the end, Su Yuqin's third uncle, Su Tianshan, decided to go after Lu Li. Of course, not everyone could go after Lu Li. Some had to stay behind to keep up appearances. Su Tianshan wanted Su Yuqin to stay, but she would not agree. In the end, Su Tianshan left 2 patriarchs behind and left with 7 patriarchs and Su Yuqin. He found Mu Wanshan, opened the space gate, and flew to the Heaven's Eye Ridge. It had been a long time. It was impossible to stop Lu Li in the Sea of Devils. They had to go to the Eye of Heaven Ridge. The Celestial Eye territory was very big. It was the territory of the Qi clan, a super clan. So many experts going, there was a provocation to the Qi clan. If the Qi clan thought that they had crossed the line, it might cause a huge battle. However, Su Tianshan couldn't care less. The Mu family's experts and the Rakshasa Palace's elders would probably head to the Heaven's Eye to claim it. At that time, he could negotiate with the Qi family. They were only going to capture someone, not to cause trouble in the Heaven's Eye Ridge. Su Tianshan knew very well that if they could not take down Lu Li at the Heaven's Eye region, They would never have another chance to do so. The god boat was too fast. The outside was not their territory. Their movements would be limited. It was impossible for them to catch up with Lu Li. The departure of Su Tianshan and his men did not escape the attention of those who were observant. After all, Su Tianshan was one of the most important guests. The smile on Old Master Mu's face became a little awkward. After sitting for a while, he walked into the back hall. He waved his hand, and a black shadow flashed out. The smile on his face froze as he asked in a deep voice, "Tell me." The old man cupped his fists and said, "Family patriarch, according to our information, that holy son of the Rakshasa Palace might have spent the night in Lady Ying Ying's room and then left for the Dragon Husbandry Island with her in the morning. Now, that holy son has taken Lady Ying Ying hostage and fled to the north on the god boat. The master of the Rakshasa Palace has given the order to hunt down Lu Li. I want him dead or alive. Wan Yin has sent someone to the Eye of Heaven Ridge to stop him. So have the Palace of Rakshasa." Just now, Su Tianshan opened the space gate and went to the Eye of Heaven Ridge. Spent the night in Ying Ying's room. A glint of killing intent rose in the old man's eyes. Then he shook his head and said, "Ying Ying is not a person who doesn't have self-respect. She would not bring a man who was just outside back to her room. Something must have happened. Did she leave any message?" "Yes." The old man nodded and said, "She was a maid who sent the message. She said that she had to go out for a couple of days and asked us not to worry. She also said that she would come back and apologize to you." "Eh." The old man squinted. He thought about it and waved his hand. "Go and find out about Ying Ying's departure and how she was taken hostage. Report back to me." "Okay." The old man left. The old man of the Mu family didn't go out either. He waited in the back hall. The banquet was ruined anyway. What was the point of forcing a smile outside? 2 hours later, the old man from before returned. He frowned and reported, "Patriarch, there's something strange going on. Tell me about it." The old man squinted his eyes. The old man explained, "First of all, Lady Ying Ying went to the Dragon Husbandry Island alone. The teleportation formation and people at the Dragon Husbandry Island have confirmed this. Ying Ying went to the Dragon Husbandry Island and flew away by herself. Before she left the island, she let Lu Li out from her interspatial artifact. Lu Li took out the god boat and flew away with Ying Ying. But they were stopped on the way. They saw that Lady Ying Ying was not hurt, and she didn't panic. Lu Li grabbed her with one hand and didn't seem to be disrespectful. More importantly, Lady Ying Ying said something. She asked them not to go after them and to back off. The old man thought about it. After a while, he sent a message to Wan Yin. They can go after them, but don't do anything rashly. Just follow them from a distance. I think Ying Ying might have reached some agreement with that Lu Li. Maybe she wasn't really taken hostage." The old man asked with confusion, "Why do you think so, family patriarch? Why would Lady Ying Ying risk her reputation?" "It is because she won't risk her reputation. That's why I think she's working with Lu Li." The more the old man thought about it, the more he thought it was possible. He explained, "Ying Ying is a girl with self-respect. She won't bring Lu Li to her room easily. She won't let Lu Li spend the night in her room. Today is my birthday. This kid must know the gravity of the situation. She won't be delayed by ordinary things. Also, that Lu Li seems to have the mysterious heaven talisman planted on him. I think Ying Ying was helping him remove the mysterious heaven talisman last night, and then helped him to escape from the Rakshasa Sea. Lu Li must have offered enough to make Ying Ying ruin her reputation. Don't panic. Maybe it is something good. Maybe Ying Ying will give us a surprise." Admittedly, the old man of the Mu family was a shrewd old man. He could deduce what had happened based on some simple information, and he was not far off the mark. If Lu Li could hear this, he would admire Mu Ying Ying from the bottom of his heart. Mu Ying Ying didn't leave any clear hints. This kid is really good at making trouble. Chapter 2294. At the outermost area at the north of the Devil's Sea, many warriors gathered here. Almost all the area at the north was the territory of the Mu family. Many islands here were either secretly controlled by the Mu family or affiliated to the Mu family. At Mu Wanyin's order, warriors of many forces were mobilized. They formed a human wall to block the way at the north. No matter which side the god boat came from, it would be stopped eventually. It was still unknown if it could be stopped or not. With Mu Yingying in Lu Li's hands, average warriors wouldn't dare to mess around. What if Mu Yingying was hurt? Who could bear the responsibility? The warriors were here to keep Lu Li busy and to keep an eye on him. In addition to the warriors, patriarchs of some forces at the north were gathering here as well. Some of them were warriors of the Fourth Tribulation. They all knew that Mu Wanyun was coming. He was about to take over as the family patriarch of the Mu family. Only by performing well, now, could they cozy up to him in the future. Mu Wanyun and the others were on their way. They would open the space gate to the Eye of Enlightenment Ridge and stop Lu Li. There was another group of patriarchs coming, including those from the Palace of Devil. Time moved on. The warriors here were getting nervous. They looked to the south eagerly. Many of them were excited. After all, they had never seen the god boat before. 2 hours later, an island in the south suddenly ignited with billowing black smoke. An elder immediately shouted, "Everyone rise into the air, they're coming." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than 1,000 warriors flew up. From the distance, a warrior of the Fourth Tribulation flew over. 2 warriors of the Fourth Tribulation stood in midair, looking to the south with glowing eyes. All the warriors took out their weapons, which were glowing. They were ready to attack at any time. Whoosh! With a sharp noise, a shadow appeared in the sky to the south. The shadow was so fast. It was just a dot, but in the blink of an eye, it was in front of them. "Stop, or we will attack." A warrior of the Fourth Tribulation released a ray of sword light, which was more than 100 feet long. It tore apart the sky and whizzed on. It looked scary, but it was not powerful. It could not even damage the god boat. The god boat moved to the left and then stopped. After a glare, Lu Li appeared with Mu Yingying in his hands. He shouted coldly, "Who dares to stop me? I will kill Mu Yingying right now." Miss Yingying. The expressions of the 2 Fourth Tribulation heaven gods changed. They were afraid that Lu Li would use Mu Yingying as a hostage. Mu Yingying was the goddess of the Mu family, the apple of the old master's eye. If they hurt Mu Yingying because of them, the old master would tear them apart. "Stand down," Mu Yingying said calmly, then added, "If you see the great elder, help me pass on a message. Don't intercept me. When I reach a safe place, he will naturally let me go." The 2 Fourth Tribulation gods didn't know what to do. They looked at each other, and one of them said, "Why don't you wait first? Lord Wanyun will be here soon. Do you want to talk to him then? I will count to 3. If you don't get out of my way, I will kill you." Lu Li shouted angrily with killing intent written all over his face. 1, 2. Out of the way. The Fourth Tribulation god was scared and had no choice but to give the order to make way. Lu Li entered the Godspeed boat in a flash, and then the Godspeed boat turned into a streak of black light and flew away. Inside the Godspeed boat, Lu Li cupped his fists and said apologetically, "Lady Yingying, I am sorry to have put you in so much trouble. I think your reputation will be damaged." "Ha." Mu Yingying smiled lightly and said, "Reputation is a burden. You will feel tired after carrying it for a long time. Without it, your life will be easier and more comfortable." Lu Li grinned. Mu Yingying made it sound so easy. The bigger a family was, the more important these things were. Sometimes, reputation was more important than life. That being said, Mu Yingying was becoming more and more pleasing to his eyes. They had only known each other for a few days, but he believed he would never forget this pure and clean lady for the rest of his life. The Godspeed boat flew on. They were out of the Devil's Sea now. But Mu Yingying didn't ask to leave, and Lu Li didn't mention it. They all knew that Mu Wanyun was coming. If Mu Yingying left, then Lu Li would be surrounded and killed. After all, Lu Li wasn't really holding her hostage. When he was safe, he would let her go. Mu Yingying took out a map after some thoughts. She looked at it and said, "Young Master Lu, I think if you keep flying forward, you will be intercepted by powerful warriors. I think warriors of the Devil Palace and the Hell Palace will show up ahead, not to mention powerful warriors of our family. They can open up the land gates and get there easily." Lu Li walked over and looked at the map. He frowned and said, "This is the territory of the heavens, I territory. No matter which way I go, I can only get here. Do I have to turn around and fly back to the Devil's Sea? Also, how is the relationship between the Heaven's Eye territory and the Devil's Sea? Well water does not interfere with river water. Mu Ying explained, the Heaven's Eye territory is the territory of the Qi family. The Qi family here is a branch. The entire Qi family is very powerful at the Ziyang land. They control 4 territories. Usually, we won't provoke the Qi family, and the Qi family has never thought of annexing the Devil's Sea. Then should I go to the city? Luli thought of a risky idea. He would teleport away after he went to the city. The powerful warriors of the Devil Sea couldn't go to the city to hunt him down. If he started a killing spree in the city, how could the Qi family sit back and do nothing? It is pointless to go to the city. Mu Ying shook her head and said, these are all small cities. There are no powerful warriors in the cities. Every family has scouts in the cities. This is to prevent the Qi family from attacking the Devil's Sea. So, when you go to the cities, your whereabouts will be tracked. By then, they will go to the front to intercept you and kill you in the cities. You just have to apologize to the Qi family later. But Luli was troubled. It was true that he would be safer after he left the Devil's Sea, but it was still dangerous. He could be caught up and killed. Mu Ying was in deep thoughts. She stared at the map carefully. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, her eyes glowed, and she said, young Master Lu, if you trust me, you can go here. Luli took a look at the map and saw the words flying volcano. He asked with a frown, what is so special about this place? This is a perilous place. Mu Ying explained, this place will spurt out heaven fire constantly, and it is horrifying. Average warriors of the third tribulation don't have the courage to go in. You are strong. You should be fine if you're careful. The terrain here is very complicated. There are many remnants of dojos of ruins. Think about it. If you go in here, the average scouts will not be able to catch you. Do you think warriors of the fourth tribulation can find you? This place has a radius of tens of millions of miles. You can run to any direction. Also, if you go across this place and go to the east, you can go to the Plum Creek region. Runes dojos. Li's eyes glowed. The last thing he was afraid of was the dojo of divine runes. Blood Fairy had already mastered divine runes. As long as the divine runes were not particularly impressive, Blood Fairy should be able to handle them. Mu Ying was right. Average warriors wouldn't have the courage to go in. Dozens of patriarchs alone would be like a stone falling into the sea. Could they find him? Okay, let's go to the flying volcano. Chapter 2295. The flying volcano was famous at the Heaven's Eye region and even at the Devil's Sea. It was also known as the Mountain of Flames. There is almost no vegetation in an area with a radius of thousands of miles. There were only bare rocks and endless flames. Not only were there horrifying flames, but there were also countless divine patterns and some fire-related demons. For average warriors, this was a hopeless place. Not even warriors at the peak of the third tribulation dared to go in. In the past, many of them tried to go in and look for treasures but never came back. They went in to look for treasures because more than 100,000 years ago, there was an old demon living in the flying volcano. He was so powerful that even the Lord of the Heaven's Eye region was not a match for him. Later on, a powerful warrior from the headquarters of the Qi family came to fight with the old demon. Eventually, the fight ended in a tie. They reached an agreement, and the mountain was given to the old demon. The flying volcano wasn't originally like this. It was the old devil who set up countless divine runes and triggered the earth fire that caused the flying volcano to slowly become like this. The old demon stayed in the flying volcano for about 100,000 years. In the end, nobody knew where he went. Maybe he died, or maybe he left. As time went by, the divine patterns on the flying volcano were broken. Some brave warriors went in to explore and found some treasures. Slowly, the news spread, and more people entered this place. Many of the divine inscriptions here were also destroyed, and countless people died in there. In the end, 2 top warriors of the Qi family came and turned the place upside down. Most of the treasures and materials were taken away. More people came in. However, since there were no treasures, people could die easily. Gradually, this place became a hopeless place. Nobody dared to go in. Flying volcano. In a mountain at the south of the Heaven's Eye region, Chief Patriarch Mu Wanyan and several patriarchs were standing there. They were upset when they heard the news. They had thought that Luli would keep flying to the north. They didn't expect that he would change direction. After he entered the Heaven's Eye region, he turned to the east. They had mobilized many scouts. There were at least tens of thousands of warriors at the south of the Heaven's Eye region. Luli's whereabouts had been tracked. The problem was that they needed time to open the portal. By the time they arrived, Luli had been flying for 6 hours. The scouts had to confirm the whereabouts of the three and then send the message, which took several more hours. By the time they got the message, Luli had been flying for more than 10 hours. Of course, his whereabouts had also been confirmed. It was obvious that he was heading for the flying volcano. This was because if he crossed the flying volcano, he would be able to reach the Plum Creek region. Once he entered the Plum Creek region, he would be like a fish in water and no one would be able to catch him. Mu Wanyan took out a map and looked at it. His expression turned solemn as he shook his head and sighed. Old Lu, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult for us to intercept him. If he flew north, we could easily intercept him. But now that he's heading east, we'll have to find the Chi clan to activate the long-distance teleportation array. The problem is that it will take some time to communicate with the Chi family. By the time we activate the long-distance teleportation formation, Luli would have entered the flying volcano. The first elder took a few glances and nodded slightly. That's right. There's no need to beg. It's meaningless. Let's go straight to flying volcano. That place is so dangerous. It's impossible for him to pass through it alone. If we gather a group of elders to go there, we still have a very high chance of capturing him. Sure. Mu Wanyan nodded and said, to ask for help, you must owe someone a favor. I will send someone to talk to the Chief family. They must do us a favor. Let's go. A group of people flew up. As they flew, Mu Wanyan gave out orders one after another, and those scouts passed on his orders. Orders were passed down like snowflakes. The Mu family mobilized 20 or 30,000 warriors, and they all swarmed toward the flying volcano. All the Fourth Tribulation warriors, including those from the Feng family and Su Tianchan who had just opened the spatial gate, were sent over. It was a bit far from the flying volcano. Even a Fourth Tribulation heaven god would need 3 or 4 days to get there at the top of his speed. Average warriors would be slower, and it would take 6 or 7 days. Luli was faster on the god boat, so he could get there in a day. Even though Luli had arrived at the flying volcano earlier than them, they were not worried. Flying was forbidden in the flying volcano. People had to walk. There were many inhibition formations and fire-related demons. Luli was capable, but how far could he go? They believed they could catch up with him easily. Report. An hour later, a scout came from the front. Mu Wanyan stopped. The scout looked at Chief Patriarch and said, Chief Patriarch, our family patriarch has sent a message. He asked you to follow them from a distance and don't kill Luli. He said the immortal lady and Luli might have reached some agreement. She is not really being held hostage. Mu Wanyan was surprised, but he covered it up soon. What was the meaning of the old patriarch's message? How could this kidnapping be fake? This would damage Mu Yingying's reputation. Mu Yingying represented more than herself. She was the immortal lady, and she represented the Mu family. Luli was not only holding the immortal lady of the Mu family hostage, but also the dignity of the Mu family. The dignity of a big family was the most important thing. Mu Yingying would not cooperate with Lu Li unless she was out of her mind. It was not worth it, even if Lu Li gave her a piece of holy weapon. Mu Wanyan couldn't figure it out, but he trusted the old patriarch. The old patriarch had sharp eyes, and he was a man of great wisdom. Years ago, when the Mu family was almost wiped out, it was the old patriarch who supported the Mu family all by himself and made the Mu family one of the most powerful forces in the Rakshasa Sea. What is it? Chief Patriarch asked with confusion. Mu Wanyan shook his head and said, Nothing. Keep going. Of course, Mu Wanyin wouldn't tell Chief Patriarch about some things. He would tell him after he caught up with Lu Li. But this time, after an hour, someone came to send a message. A scout told him that Lu Li and Mu Yingying had arrived at the seaside, and Mu Yingying asked someone to send a message to him. Don't stop him. When we are at a safe place, he will let me go. Mu Wanyin repeated Mu Yingying's message. He was even more surprised. Could it be that the old patriarch was right? Mu Yingying was not being held hostage. She was just putting on a show with Lu Li. What price did Lu Li offer? Or could it be that Mu Yingying had fallen in love with Lu Li at first sight? Was she willing to ruin her own reputation for him? Mu Wanyin still couldn't figure it out. This time, he thought about it for half an incense stick to burn. Then he called over a scout and said, "Go and send the family patriarch's order to all the patriarchs. Tell them to act according to the order. Also, evacuate most of the scouts and average warriors. They can't contribute to the flying volcano anyway." Mu Wanyin moved on after a while. This time, Chief Patriarch didn't ask any more questions, but he felt something was off. It seemed that the Mu family was not willing to contribute. Chapter 2296. On the way to the flying volcano, there were people trying to stop Lu Li as well. But they were just weak warriors. Lu Li had kidnapped Mu Yingying. Even if they could stop Lu Li, they wouldn't be able to. Lu Li changed his direction and arrived at the flying volcano without a hitch. When he looked at the flying volcano from the distance, he was shocked even though he had seen a lot of things. In the distance, there was a towering mountain range. The range was undulating with no end in sight. Lu Li had seen many towering mountains, but it was rare to see one completely covered in flames. That mountain range was barren. There were no flowers or trees. There were only barren mountains and fiery clouds that filled the sky. Yes, clouds of fire. Lu Li looked into the distance and saw clouds of fire floating in the sky. Balls of fire were floating in the sky, and the heat was blowing at his face. Lu Li was still thousands of miles away from Mount Fire Cloud. He was still in the god boat, but he could already feel the heat. The air was filled with heat and sulfuric smell, making people feel suffocated and suffocated. Lu Li steered the god speedboat forward for more than 30 miles before he stopped. He stood up, cupped his fists, and said, "All right, Lady Yingying, I am sorry that you have suffered along the way. Let's part ways here. If we are destined to meet again, I will come back to thank you again." Mu Yingying stood up and bowed back. Lu Li took out the mountain and handed it to her. Instead of leaving, she said, "Young Master Lu, let me go to the flying volcano with you. We will part ways after you get to the Plum Creek region." Lu Li was astonished. There were hostages who volunteered to be taken. Mu Yingying should know the dangers of the flying volcano better than he did. Was Mu Yingying out of her mind to go with him? Lu Li forced a smile and said, "Lady Yingying, why are you doing this? The flying volcano is so dangerous. What is more, people from other families will come after us. If something happens to you, I will not be able to atone for my sins." "It is not that serious." Mu Yingying waved the mountain in her hand and said, "Compared to what I have done, young Master Lu has given us more. If I don't help you, I will feel guilty. Also, I have admired the flying volcanoes for a long time, and I want to go in and have some fun. Lu Li and Yingying can protect themselves. What is more, the north is the territory of our Mu family. The other families don't have the guts to hurt me." Mu Yingying was a kind person. Lu Li had given her 7 mountains, which was a great favor to the Mu family. She felt Lu Li had given her too little. More importantly, she wanted to go with Lu Li. This man was too special. She didn't want to leave like this. She wanted to stay with him for a while longer. Even if the two of them didn't meet in the end, it would still be a beautiful memory in their lives. Lu Li pressed his lips together and asked, "Are you sure?" Mu Yingying nodded with determination. Lu Li said no more. Mu Yingying could only stand to gain by going with him. She should be able to fight well. She should be safe at the flying volcano. "Let's go." He controlled the godly speedboat and continued to fly forward. Mu Yingying's pretty face changed as she hurriedly said, "Stop. You can't fly in a flying volcano." Lu Li was surprised. He stopped the godly speedboat at once and flew off with Mu Ying. He put away the godly speedboat and glided forward while he asked, "What do you mean?" "The entire flying volcano has a powerful dojo of runes," Mu Ying explained while flying side by side with Lu Li. "This powerful dojo of runes will not be activated normally. But once someone flies over, it will be activated. The horrifying flames will fly out. Even your chief patriarch will be burned into ashes, not to mention us." "That horrifying?" Lu Li lowered his head. They flew down and flew on. They were fast. In the blink of an eye, they were inside the flying volcano. Immortal Lady has gone into the flying volcano with Lu Li. There were scouts lurking nearby. They were the top ones sent over by Mu Wanyan. They were far away, so Lu Li didn't notice them. The scouts recognized the godly speedboat as soon as they saw two people going into the flying volcano. They were sure that it was Lu Li and Mu Ying. They didn't dare to stop Lu Li and Mu Ying. Some of them had to send a message. The best scouts followed them from a distance. They didn't expect to keep up with Lu Li and Mu Ying. Chief Patriarch said that Immortal Lady is not being held hostage. Then why didn't she leave some signals or marks? The top scouts went after them, but they didn't see any traces. They were all confused. Theoretically speaking, Mu Ying was smart enough to leave some signals without leaving any traces. It would be easier for them to track them down. Even though Lu Li and Mu Ying were flying on, their steps were light. They didn't leave any marks on the ground. They had gone for thousands of miles into the flying cloud mountain. The periphery was safe, and they didn't run into any danger along the way. But what they saw inside the flying volcano was an eye-opener for Lu Li and Mu Ying. The stones here were all emitting green smoke, and there were flames floating in the mountains. The flames were not of just one color. There were flames of several colors. One was white, one was black, and one was blue. The three kinds of flames were of different temperatures and shapes. The white flames were like lotuses wandering around in the mountains. The black flames were like earth dragons drilling in and out of the ground. The blue flames were special. They would come out from the void and then disappear again. Lu Li had been using the mark of Tao since he came in. He had been sensing the movements around him. There were several times when black flames came out from the ground and from the void. He sensed them in advance and took Mu Ying away. Mu Ying had witnessed Lu Li's miraculous skills. She had a feeling that everything around was under his control. Lu Li didn't let her down. Every time there was a flame, he could foresee it. What embarrassed Mu Ying was that because the flames came out of nowhere, Lu Li had to reach out and grab her every time. She once had intimate contact with Lu Li. She collapsed in his arms. That strong sense of masculinity of a man was still vivid in her memory. Now, she was being held by Lu Li again and again. As someone who had never been intimate with a man, it was natural that she felt uncomfortable. That being said, there was a bit of expectation and sweetness in her heart. When Lu Li took her hand, her heart was beating fast and her breaths were short. Lu Li could sense Mu Ying's strange behavior when he used the mark of Tao. The shy look on the girl's face made his heart skip a beat. Even though he hadn't known Mu Ying for long, they felt they had known each other for years. The girl's beauty, cleanness, kindness, and temperament deeply attracted him. Of course, soon, Lu Li calmed himself down. He didn't show it on his face. He was leaving soon, and he had to find a way to leave the Ziyang land and go to the Flying Fire continent. It was impossible for him to meet Mu Ying again in this lifetime. Therefore, it was better for him to leave her alone. Love was a double-edged sword. It could hurt others as well as oneself. Chapter 2297. Phew, from the mountain, a stream of dark flames burst out from the ground. Like a black dragon of fire, the flames enveloped a large area. The heat spread out, and even the air was curling up. Lu Li and Mu Ying were coming this way. But Lu Li seemed to have foreseen this. He took Mu Ying's arm and flew to the left with her. Mu Ying cooperated with Lu Li and flew up with him. The two of them glided in an arc and flew past the fire dragon like a couple in heaven. Mu Ying's cheeks were no longer blushing. That being said, every time Lu Li took her hand, she would have a different feeling. She was not in the mood to observe the surroundings. She just followed Luli blindly. The temperature of the flying volcano was extremely high, especially when one passed by the flames. The temperature was even higher. But Mu Yingying seemed to have some treasures that could protect her from fire. She did not sweat. Luli did not have such treasures. He was strong, but he was sweating as well. Sacred pattern. Dozens of thousands of miles later, Luli could feel the presence of sacred patterns. In front of them was a mountain. Luli could faintly see sacred patterns on the ground and on the rocks. Those sacred patterns must have been there for a long time. They were intermittent and incomplete. Luli wondered if they had any special functions. Buzzing, after a red glare, Blood Fairy came out. Mu Yingying checked with psychic power. She was surprised. She could not help but ask, "Young Master Lu, what is that?" "A goblin. It can be used to check sacred patterns." Luli gave her a simple explanation. Blood Fairy circled around and said to Luli, "Master, there's a dojo of sacred patterns here, but it has been damaged. It is better not to touch certain places, or it will be troublesome. Come with me. I will take you with me." Luli looked at Mu Yingying and took her hand again. Together, they flew forward. Blood Fairy was moving quickly underground. Luli followed her. Well, there were divine glyphs everywhere, but Luli was flying forward with her. He didn't touch any divine glyphs along the way, which shocked Mu Yingying even more. There were a lot of divine inscriptions in the vicinity. Although they were damaged, if one were to accidentally touch them, it would be very troublesome. The divine inscriptions here were famous for being terrifying. How many cultivators had died here? Skeleton? Mu Yingying suddenly exclaimed in shock. In front of her, she saw some skeletons that had been shattered into pieces. Most probably, they were killed by the divine inscriptions dojo. Luli remained calm. Instead, he put on a gentle smile and said, "It's okay. I will take you with me. Nothing will go wrong." Luli walked on with Mu Yingying. Mu Yingying's heart warmed up. She was in a trance. How she wished they could go on like this and walk to the end of the world with this man holding her hand. Xiao. Luli moved like a ghost. He did not stop at all. He trusted Blood Fairy completely. As long as she did not stop, he would not stop. There were more and more skeletons along the way. They were either chopped off or crushed in some places. Clearly, they had died a miserable death. The divine glyphs here were horrifying. Luli could feel it as well. There were more and more divine glyphs nearby. Many ordinary-looking rocks were filled with divine glyphs. Master, thousands of miles later, Blood Fairy suddenly stopped and said, "There are monsters up ahead. They are hiding in the rocks. They are small. Should we go away?" "A demon has appeared?" Luli was curious. He waved his hand and told Blood Fairy to keep moving forward. He wanted to go through the volcanoes. Sooner or later, he would have to face the demons and beasts. As such, he could not run away now. He must figure out the characteristics of the beasts in case he was caught unprepared. "There are demons and beasts," Luli said to Mu Yingying. She came back to her senses. Her eyes became clear again. She looked a bit shy. In such a dangerous place, she could not believe that she was distracted. Bang, 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 bang. The rocks in front of them cracked. Following that, many small beasts flew out. Those beasts were only the size of human heads. They were ugly, like insects with many spikes. Their mouths were big, their bodies were red, and they had more than a dozen feet. Croak, croak, while making strange noises, the beasts dashed toward Luli and Luli at a fast speed. Luli took out the Phantom King from the wicked bead and dashed toward the beasts. "That is the Phantom King." Mu Yingying's eyes glowed. The Phantom King was famous. When the Phantom King came out, it was so fast that Mu Yingying believed it deserved its reputation. Bang, 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 the Phantom King rushed over and swung its claws, tearing apart one monster after another. The monsters spat out flames from their mouths, and many of the scales on the Phantom King's body were destroyed. Many parts of the Phantom King's body were burned. "The flames from those beasts are strong," Luli said with a frown. Mu Yingying explained, "Those are fire spurworms. They're not only found in the flying volcano, but also in some places at the Devil's Sea. They are common in the third heaven. They are strong. If you're not a fourth tribulation warrior, you'll be in big trouble." Luli could tell that the fire spur worms were slow. A fourth tribulation warrior could dodge them easily, but a third tribulation warrior would be in big trouble. The Phantom King dashed around and tore apart the fire spur worms one by one. By the time dozens of fire spur worms were killed, the Phantom King was left with many burns. Though they were not fatal, the Phantom King was suffering. Luli put the Spectre Lord into a hall in the Wicked Bead at once. The mountain was given to Mu Yingying, and Lu Li's belongings were all put into the Wicked Bead. The Nether Springs were moved there as well. Your interspatial artifact is not of a good level. Mu Yingying threw a glance to Lu Li's Wicked Bead. Since Lu Li had the Godspeed boat, why would he use such a low-level interspatial artifact? Lu Li forced a smile and said, I have a good interspatial artifact, but you can have it. The Nine Strange Mountain? Mu Yingying came back to her senses. She felt embarrassed. The Nine Strange Mountain with a good interspatial artifact. She thought for a moment. The red bead in her hand glowed as she went in. A moment later, she came out and handed the bead to Lu Li. This bead is called the Heaven Separation Bead. It is an advanced interspatial artifact. Young Master Lu, you gave it to us at the Nine Strange Mountain. Consider this a gift from the Mu family. Lu Li went into the interspatial artifact. It was a good one, much better than the Wicked Bead. The space inside was larger as well. Chapter 2298. Lu Li and Mu Yingying moved on after they killed the fire spur worms nearby. Blood Fairy did not stop. She had been exploring along the way. At the same time, she recorded all the divine patterns along the way so that she could study them later. Blood Fairy had been studying divine patterns all day long since she had nothing to do. She enjoyed studying divine patterns. With Blood Fairy leading the way, Lu Li and Mu Yingying had a smooth journey. They did not stop and went on their way to the east. There were divine patterns everywhere. That old Asmodean must be a master in divine patterns. The entire flying volcano was covered in divine patterns, and many of them were powerful. If it were not for the fact that the divine patterns were broken, it would have been difficult for Lu Li and Mu Yingying to go through. Along the way, they encountered several kinds of beasts, such as fire spur worms, fire snakes, and fire cloud leopards. The beasts here were not particularly strong or weak. If a warrior who had passed through the third tribulation were to run into them, it was highly likely that he would lose his life here. Lu Li barely did anything. He only relied on the Phantom King to attack. Occasionally, he would send out some wind warcraft. Of course, he would only send out dozens, not over 100. Even when dozens of wind warcraft attacked at the same time, the momentum and the scene still frightened Mu Yingying. Dozens of beams of light shredded more than a dozen fire cloud leopards in front of them. Mu Yingying could not stop thinking about that magnificent scene. She now had a whole new understanding of Lu Li's abilities. They had killed so many beasts along the way. Even if they cleared away all the corpses, the traces of the attacks could not be erased. Therefore, Lu Li and Mu Yingying's tracks would be exposed. But Lu Li could not worry about that now. He had to move on quickly and try to cross the flying volcano before his enemies caught up. He and Mu Yingying made some calculations. Even if Mu Wanyun and the patriarchs from the Palace of Rakshasa and the Hell Department opened the spatial gates, they would still be 1 or 2 days behind Lu Li and Mu Yingying. In 1 or 2 days, as long as Lu Li and Mu Yingying kept moving forward, no matter how fast Mu Wanyun and the patriarchs from the Palace of Rakshasa and the Hell Department were, they would be 1 or 2 days behind Lu Li and Mu Yingying. Lu Li and Mu Yingying could come to this conclusion because of Blood Fairy. Lu Li and Mu Yingying didn't have to worry about divine patterns. Although some of the experts behind them might have comprehended divine inscriptions, it wasn't so easy for them to do so. They would still need to spend some time to investigate. Hence, although the experts behind them were stronger than them, they might not be able to catch up to them. 3 days. After traveling for 3 days, the two of them could be considered to be nearing the central region of the soaring volcano. The two of them started to slow down. It wasn't that the monsters here were stronger, but rather, it was that the divine inscriptions here were getting denser and more terrifying. The glyphs in the center hadn't been damaged too much, so Blood Fairy couldn't easily find a safe passage. She had to spend some time searching. Phew, there were more and more flames. From time to time, there would be blue flames bursting out from the void and black dragons of fire whooshed out from underground. Even if Lu Li and Lu Li didn't move, the flames would come at them. Mu Li and Mu and Ying Ying. Blood Lu time. Fairy time. Time. Were. And Li and Mu Ying Ying and Mu. Half an hour later, Blood Fairy said, "Master, I realize that we've taken the wrong route. There are only two ways we can go. Either we go into the valley ahead, or we go back." Lu Li time. Lu, Li and valley. Lu, Li around. The valley was surrounded by mountains with only one entrance. It was easy to go in, but difficult to come out. Lu Li thought about it and asked, "If we go back, how far do we have to go?" "About 4 to 6 hours. Blood Fairy answered. Lu Li hesitated again. Going back for 4 to 6 hours? That would mean wasting 8 to 10 hours. That was not a good thing. Go into the valley and have a look. Let's see if there's a way out. Lu Li waved his hand. Blood Fairy went into the valley. Mu Ying Ying sensed something. What is it? Mu Ying Ying asked with curiosity. Is it dead end? Lu Li opened his eyes. Either go into the valley or go back. If we go back, we'll have to take a detour for 8 to 10 hours. Mu Ying Ying frowned. Gazing into the valley, she said, "We'd better not go in. The divine patterns in the valley are the most dangerous." "Well, let your fairy go in and have a look. If there's a way out, we can go into the valley." Lu Li nodded. After the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, Blood Fairy came back and said, "I have checked. There are powerful divine patterns in the valley, but some places are damaged. There should be a way out, but I need more time." "Then let's go." Lu Li trusted Blood Fairy. It would be a long way to go back and forth. If they could go through the valley, it would save him a lot of time. He took Mu Ying Ying into the valley. It was a large valley with no demons or monsters, but there were black dragons of fire flying out from some places. The only thing special about the valley was that there were many bones. Many must have died here. They used psychic power to check the valley. Making sure that there was no danger, they were relieved. If there was no way out, they could leave easily. Blood Fairy flew around in the valley, looking around. Lu Li and Mu Ying Ying waited. A moment later, Mu Ying Ying took out a pagoda and said to Lu Li, "It is too hot here. How about we go in and have some tea while we wait?" "Sure." Lu Li nodded. He thought to himself that young ladies from major families had many treasures. Not long ago, she had given him a bead, and now she had given him another interspatial artifact. They went into the interspatial artifact. There was a small hall inside, nicely decorated. It must be where Mu Ying Ying usually lived. "Young Master Lu, please wait. I will be right back." Mu Ying Ying asked Lu Li to sit down and then left, blushing. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Mu Ying Ying came back. She had changed into a dress. She must have gone to take a bath. There was a faint fragrance on her. Mu Ying Ying brought tea and brewed it for Lu Li herself. Young ladies from major families were different. Clearly, she had learned how to brew tea. Her actions were graceful. With a beauty in front of him, the tea was fragrant. Lu Li felt intoxicated as he enjoyed the tea. It had been a long time since he enjoyed such a relaxing moment. Neither of them said anything. Mu Ying Ying seemed to be enjoying the atmosphere. She would look up at Lu Li every now and then. Her cheeks would blush. At this moment, another thought came to her mind. How wonderful it would be if time could stop at this moment. "Master, there's a problem." Blood Fairy's voice rang out. "There's a problem. There's a hidden divine inscriptions dojo here. It's extremely powerful, and I have no way to break it. You can only retreat. Go back." Chapter 2299. Though it was a waste of time, there was nothing Lu Li could do. He could not force his way in. Blood Fairy said that there was a powerful dojo in here, and she could not do anything about it. If Lu Li tried to force his way in, he would be courting death. He explained to Mu Ying Ying, and they left the tower and went back the way they came. Blood Fairy followed Lu Li to the entrance of the valley. When they were about to step out of the valley, something happened. The entire valley trembled. Then, many black dragons of fire came out from the entrance and sealed off the entrance. Lu Li and Mu Yingying looked at each other. They were taken aback. There was not just one dragon of fire at the entrance, but countless dragons of fire that covered the entire entrance. Those black dragons of fire came in and out. The temperature was so high that Lu Li and Mu Yingying felt they were on fire, even though they were thousands of feet away. The black dragons of fire kept coming in and out. There was no way out unless Lu Li and Mu Yingying flew up. The problem was whoever dared to fly up would die a miserable death once they triggered the dojo in the flying volcano. The two of them observed for a moment, but they were at a loss of what to do. Blood Fairy's voice rang out. "Master, this is bad. I don't know why the hidden Divine Inscriptions dojo was activated. Now that the Divine Inscriptions dojo has been activated, we won't be able to exit temporarily. We can't get out?" Luli was troubled. If they were stuck here for a day or two, the patriarchs of the Mu family, Palace of Rakshasa, and the underworld would find them soon. By then, even if Blood Fairy could solve the problem, Luli would still be doomed. "Do you think you can solve it?" Luli asked at once. Blood Fairy did not answer right away. Instead, she wandered around underground. After the time for one incense stick to burn, she replied, "I don't know. I need some time. Maybe I can solve it in half a day, or a few days, or a few months. But I think I have a chance." Luli was troubled. In a few months, he would have to wait for his death. He was lost in thoughts. Mu Yingying asked, "How is it? Can you solve it?" "Not yet." Luli shook his head. "I need some time. I think it will take at least a few days. How about we fly out on the Godspeed boat?" "Absolutely not." Mu Yingying's pretty face changed. She shook her head and said, "Don't ever go to the sky. Countless people have confirmed that going to the sky means certain death. Although the Godspeed boat is fast, I think it will be destroyed in an instant. Then we can only wait." Luli sighed. He told Blood Fairy to solve the problem quickly. Mu Yingying was not worried about her own safety. Later on, the powerful warriors of the Mu family would come. No matter how strong the runes were, they could be cracked by force. He waited for the time it takes for 3 incense sticks to burn before Blood Fairy transmitted a message to him. "Master, I'm confident that I can break it open. I'm even confident that I can take control of the Divine Inscriptions dojo. However, I'll need at least 5 to 6 days." "You don't need to control it," Luli immediately said. "You just need to find a way out, and you need to be fast." "All right," Blood Fairy replied. "I'll hurry. The runes here are very complicated." Mu Yingying looked at Lu Li's expression. She forced a smile and said, "How about we go in and have a seat? We can't rush this." "All right." Lu Li followed Mu Yingying into the tower. They continued to drink tea, but the atmosphere was gone. The atmosphere was depressing. A moment later, Mu Yingying said, "Young Master Lu, don't worry. If you can't do it, you could take me hostage. My chief patriarch is here. I don't think anyone will dare to touch you." Luli forced a smile. What else could he do? He had to wait and do his best, leaving the rest to fate. Outside the flying volcano, more and more powerful warriors were coming. The first to arrive were those nearby, followed by Mu Wanyun and the others. Following them were those from the Palace of Rakshasa and the Hell. 2 days after Lu Li was trapped, many powerful warriors had arrived. Average warriors did not go in. Instead, scouts and warriors of the Fourth Tribulation had gone in to look for Lu Li. Even though Lu Li did not leave any traces, the scouts in front of him could tell where he was going. They left marks along the way as well. Therefore, the powerful warriors followed the marks. There were many runes on the way that would slow them down. That being said, they were all powerful warriors so they could pass through easily. Lu Li was trapped for 3 days. Patriarchs of the Mu family had arrived. Several scouts were guarding outside the valley. They believed that Lu Li and Mu Yingying were in the valley. On the 4th day, Mu Wanyun and Chief Patriarch came. Mu Wanyun asked with a frown, "Are you sure they are in there?" A patriarch answered, "There are powerful runes around here, and there are no signs of damage. The ruined Taoist field in the valley is disturbed. Also, Chief Patriarch, you can check. Mu Yingying's Dragon Elephant Pagoda is in there." Mu Wanyan used psychic power to check it once. Their psychic power was so strong that they could see through the runes. After a while, Mu Wanyan nodded and said, "They are in there." Chief Patriarch was delighted. Luli was trapped in there. Not even an immortal could save him. Even if Mu Ying was taken hostage, Chief Patriarch could kill Luli in an instant if he had a chance. "Brother Wanyan," Chief Patriarch cupped his fists and said, "Are you gathering people to break the formation? Do you have any powerful warriors that can understand runes?" "Yes, we do." Mu Wanyan nodded and said with a bitter smile, "But I have some impression of this valley. I think I have been here before. Back then, there was an old man that was proficient in runes trapped in there. It took him half a month to break the formation. I think we should just break it open by force instead of breaking the formation. There were so many powerful warriors here, and there were more coming. The attacks of so many people were horrifying. They should be able to break it open by force." "Let's try." Chief Patriarch nodded. His hand glowed, and a huge hand appeared out of thin air and smashed at the mountain on the left. That mountain trembled and then glowed. Countless runes emerged. "Attack!" Mu Wanyan growled, and the group of people released their own attacks, hurriedly bombarding the mountain peak on the left. The sky was filled with glaring lights. The horrifying chi and energy spread out, making the souls of the scouts tremble. That mountain was glaring and intertwined with runes, blocking all the powerful warriors' attacks. One had to admit that the rune Taoist field here was very powerful. If it were regular runes, they would have been blasted open. Lu Li and Mu Ying were alarmed. It was hard not to be alarmed by such horrifying tremors and explosions. Both of them used their psychic power to check, and their expressions changed. "So many people are here." Chapter 2300. It had been days since Blood Fairy sent any messages. Luli knew that he could not be in a hurry, so he did not urge her. But now he had to ask. "Master, don't panic. They won't be able to break through the divine inscription dojo." Blood Fairy replied, "They cannot. Are you kidding me?" Luli curled his lips. There were Chief Patriarch Mu Wanyan and other powerful warriors outside. Patriarchs from the underworld would come as well. How could the Divine Inscriptions dojo defend against so many experts? "They cannot," Blood Fairy replied with absolute certainty. This Divine Inscription dojo is connected to the entire Divine Inscription dojo of the Flying Volcano. In other words, if someone tries to forcefully break it open, the entire Divine Inscription dojo of the Flying Volcano will be activated. I just checked. The underground flames have been triggered. Not even 100 times more people can blast it open, let alone so few. "Okay." Luli was relieved. Blood Fairy never lied. If she said it was okay, then it must be okay. The plaza could not be blasted open, but he could not run away either. Was he going to be trapped here for the rest of his life? Luli asked, "Blood Fairy, do you still need to crack the formation? If you do, can I go in another direction?" "It is pointless," Blood Fairy replied. "I'll see if I can control this Divine Inscription dojo. When the time comes, I'll arrange another path for Master to escape. At the same time, I won't let them in." "Okay." Luli was cheered up. Mu Ying asked, "What is it? Is there a chance?" "Maybe." Luli explained, "My goblin spirit told me that no one from the outside can blast open the runes here. It is trying to find another way for us to escape." Mu Ying's eyes glowed. She could not help but ask, "What kind of goblin spirit is it? How can it be so powerful?" Ha, you might not believe it." Luli laughed and said, "I got this goblin from the mortal world, and it has been with me for many years. It is gifted in deciphering inhibition formations. Over the years, it has evolved many times, and it has been studying inhibition formations. That is why it has such powerful abilities." "Mortal world?" Mu Ying was startled and asked, "You came from the mortal world?" "Yeah." Luli grinned and said, "I came from a very small universe, and then I went to the first heaven and then the second heaven. I just reached the third heaven not long ago." This, Mu Ying felt it was a fairy tale. She was born in the Devil's Sea and was unfamiliar with the second heaven. She didn't expect that Luli had come up from such a low-level place. A look of curiosity appeared on her face as she asked, "Young Master Lu, can you tell me about the mortal world, the first heaven, and the second heaven? I've never left Rakshasa Sea in my entire life." Ha ha ha. Since he had nothing else to do, Luli thought he might as well make it simple. He talked about the heaven reverse universe, the divinity, and the second heaven. He talked for over 2 hours and drank several cups of tea. Even though Luli didn't go into details, Mu Yingying felt she had opened a door to a whole new world. She was stunned for the time for one incense stick to burn. Then, she exclaimed with admiration, "Young Master Lu, your life is wonderful. I have been at the Devil's Sea all my life. Compared to you, I'm like a captive animal. Even I feel inferior in front of you." "Ha ha ha, you can't say that." Luli waved his hand and said, "Sometimes a simple and ordinary life can be a happy thing. Who would want to wander aimlessly if they could live a happy and healthy life?" Wait, Mu Yingying suddenly remembered something. She said, "Didn't you say you want to go to the Flying Fire Continent? You said you have a family there. If you were born in the mortal world, how come you have a family at the Flying Fire Continent?" "I am not lying to you," Luli said with longing in his eyes. "I told you about my sister. She is not related to me by blood. She is from the Dragon Rebel race. I don't know how she came to the Heaven Reverse Universe, but I am sure of her identity now. So, I'm going to the Flying Fire Continent to find her." The Dragon Rebel race, one of the 10 ancient races. Mu Yingying covered her mouth with her hand. There was a hint of surprise in her eyes. She exclaimed, "The Dragon Rebel clan is very powerful. I didn't expect your sister to be a member of that clan. Well, will they be unhappy if you go to her?" "I don't care which race she is from," Luli said. "I just want to find my sister, see her, and see if she is doing well. If she is, I will not disturb her. If not, I will take her back." Luli's words were calm, but his tone was firm. Mu Yingying's heart skipped a beat when she saw the determination in Luli's eyes. After a long time, she exclaimed, "Young Master Lu, have a safe journey and find your sister." "Ha ha ha." Luli laughed and said, "It is pointless to talk about this now. Let's get out of here first. If we die here, then everything will be meaningless." "Die?" Mu Yingying lowered her head. She thought about it and said, "Young Master Lu, when you came to the third heaven, did you ever think that you would die here?" "Of course." Luli nodded and said, "When I came to the third heaven, I was only at the peak of the third tribulation realm. In the third heaven, I was nothing. There are so many powerful warriors here. I can't even leave the Ziyang continent. The Flying Fire Continent is so far away. How can a journey be peaceful? Therefore, before I came here, I was prepared to die. Death is not scary. What is scary is living a life of mediocrity." Living a life of mediocrity. Mu Yingying's expression suddenly turned gloomy. She had been satisfied with her identity in her life. But after hearing Lu Li's story, she felt her life was too plain, too inactive. The thing was, she was a girl. Her family was here, her roots were here. What did she do? Should she go out and explore the world by herself, to the chilly winter continent or the Flying Fire Continent? She was a smart girl. She knew very well that if a warrior wanted to become a big shot, he or she must go through adventures, seek opportunities, and go through life and death battles. Otherwise, under the protection of her family, she could only become a powerful warrior like Mu Wanyun at best. There was no way she could climb higher. Would she be willing to leave her family, her parents, her brothers and sisters? Would she be willing to live a comfortable life and explore the world by herself? Let's go to the Flying Fire Continent with Lu Li. A bold idea suddenly came to Mu Yingying's mind. Neither she nor Lu Li were powerful. If they could survive and make it to the Flying Fire Continent and come back, they would be more powerful than the patriarch of the Mu family. They might even become lords. If she went with Lu Li, her life would not be as plain and boring as before. It would be full of vigor. She would either fall like a shooting star or rise up to the sky. As soon as this idea came to mind, it was like a spark that set the prairie ablaze. Mu Yingying could not calm herself down. Chapter 23:01. Boom, boom, boom. Outside the valley, a group of people had been attacking the mountain. The powerful warriors' attacks were shocking. The horrifying energy spread out, making people's hearts palpitate. They had been attacking for over a day. Gradually, warriors from the palace of Rakshasa and the Hell Palace arrived. They all joined the team. Mu family sent more than a dozen warriors of the fourth tribulation. The palace of Rakshasa sent 10, and the Hell Palace sent 8. In total, there were more than 30 warriors. There were also powerful warriors like Muwanyan and Chief Patriarch Su Tianchan. Sui Wachin came as well. When she learned that Luli was trapped, she was excited. She attacked ferociously with her Heaven Universe sword. The might of the holy weapon shard soared to the sky. Her attacks were no weaker than those of the average patriarchs. However, something depressing happened. The more than 30 powerful warriors had been attacking for 2 days, and there was no change in the mountain. The glare of the divine glyph didn't weaken one bit. This shocked everyone. No matter how strong the divine glyph dojo was, it would run out of energy under the attack of so many people. The divine glyph dojo needed energy to sustain. Under the continuous attacks of so many powerful warriors, the energy would run out, unless the divine glyph was so strong that the attacks could not cause any damage. Was there such a powerful divine glyph in the world? Of course, there was one in the flying volcano. But hadn't the powerful divine glyph in the flying volcano been cracked? How could there still be such a powerful divine glyph? Also, Muwanyan once observed the divine glyph here. An old warrior spent half a month to crack the divine glyph and escaped. The fact that the divine glyph could be cracked indicated that the divine glyph was not particularly strong. Why couldn't the divine glyph be cracked by so many powerful warriors? If the divine glyph could not be cracked after 2 days, then it might never be cracked. Go on. Su Tianchan waved his hand and said to Muwanyan, Brother Wanyan, please send a message back to the Hell Island. Ask Patriarch Fei Changtian to open the space gate and come over. If we really cannot crack it, then ask him to do it. He is the best at divine glyph in the Hell Island. Okay. Muwanyan summoned a scout, and the scout flew off with Su Tianchan's keepsake. However, even if he used his fastest speed to reach Hell Island, it would still take 5 or 6 days for him to arrive after opening the super long-distance domain gate. They were not in a hurry, because Luli could not run away. The Dragon Elephant Pagoda was still there. Su Tianchan checked the valley and found no exit. Time flew by. For the 5 days had passed, yet there was still no news from Blood Fairy. Initially, Blood Fairy had said that she would be able to control the Divine Inscription Dojo within a few days, but she had actually gone back on her words. Luli did not ask more questions. Blood Fairy must have encountered a huge problem, or else she would not be like this. He sat cross-legged in the Dragon Elephant Pagoda, cultivating in peace. The divine inscriptions outside the pagoda remained unbroken, which meant that Blood Fairy's judgment was correct. Another 2 days passed, but there were still no changes to the divine inscriptions outside. Everyone's hearts sank. Although they didn't know what was going on, they shouldn't be able to break the divine inscriptions here. They did not give up on attacking. At the same time, they waited for Underworld Palace's Elder Fae to arrive. In addition, the Chief Patriarch sent a message to a Patriarch of the Palace of Rakshasa that was proficient in divine inscriptions to open the portal. Luli had dissolved the Black Heaven Talisman and fled, which was tantamount to betraying the Palace of Rakshasa. He must be captured and killed, or else the internal situation of the Palace of Rakshasa would be affected. The betrayal of the Sacred Sun would have an impact on the Palace of Rakshasa. Is this divine inscription dojo the most powerful one in the flying volcano? Sui Wachin murmured. The other patriarchs had been thinking about this as well. If it were an average divine inscription, it would have been cracked by now, unless this was the main divine inscription of the flying volcano. It was said that there were several powerful divine inscriptions hidden in the flying volcano. Once triggered, the hidden divine inscriptions would be triggered. Stop. Let's wait for Patriarch Fei and the others. Su Tianchan gave up. They had been attacking for so many days, but the color of the divine inscription remained unchanged. They had been attacking for so many days. Another month would be pointless. They had given up on the idea. At Su Tianshan's order, they all stopped. They found a place to sit down and rest while waiting for Patriarch Fei and the patriarchs of the Palace of Rakshasa to come. The sudden stop alarmed Lu Li and Mu Yingying. They used psychic power to check. They were relieved to see that everyone was sitting down. As soon as Lu Li and Mu Yingying used psychic power to check, they were alerted. Some of them were familiar with Lu Li's psychic power. 2 hours later, Blood Fairy finally said, "Master, I am sorry. I have underestimated the divine inscriptions here. The divine inscriptions here are connected to the main divine inscription of the flying volcano. It is difficult to control the divine inscriptions here. I need more time." "Okay, there is no hurry." Lu Li nodded. Those outside could not crack the divine inscriptions in a short time. He still had time. He was not in a hurry. He closed his eyes and cultivated. Mu Yingying did not cultivate. She sat there in a daze. Every now and then, she would look at Lu Li or play with the jades in her hands. She would brew a cup of tea, and she would enjoy it slowly. Previously, a thought had appeared in Mu Yingying's mind, and this thought had been flashing in her mind like a spark. She had been suffering. On the one hand, she had to face her family. On the other hand, she had to face her desire. She found it hard to make a decision. Several days later, Patriarch Fei from the Palace of Hell finally arrived. He opened the space portal and arrived at the flying volcano. Then, he traveled day and night to get here. This Patriarch Fei was not well known at the Palace of Rakshasa, nor at the Palace of Hell. Sui Waqin only knew of his existence. He was an unkempt old man. He dressed in normal clothes and did not look like a powerful warrior. He was merely at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. When he arrived, he nodded to Su Tianshan and began to study the divine inscriptions here. Everyone was looking at him, waiting for him to crack the divine inscriptions. However, he had been walking around for half a day without doing anything. "I can, but I need time." Elder Fei only stopped and said lazily after nightfall. Su Tianshan asked excitedly, "How long will it take?" "Hard to say." Patriarch Fei shook his head and said, "Maybe 1 or 2 days, maybe 1 or 2 months. The divine inscriptions here are connected to the main divine inscriptions of the flying volcano. They are complicated. Also, I can only make a small crack for you to go in. I cannot crack it completely." "That is enough." Su Tianshan and the others nodded. It was pointless to crack the divine inscriptions here completely. They just wanted to go in and kill Lu Li. "Do it. Let us know if you need any help." Chapter 23:02. Someone is cracking the formation. As soon as Patriarch Fei took action, the pattern began to tremble. Blood Fairy sensed it and sent a message to Lu Li. Lu Li used psychic power to check. There was indeed an old man working on the pattern. The way he did it was strange. There were some silver needles in his hands, and he continuously shot them out. Those silver needles pierced into the divine runes, and as the silver needles pierced into the divine runes, they were like iron nails piercing into a stone wall. Using formations to crack formations, Lu Li could see some signs. After all, he had learned something about patterns over the years. Elder Fei set up a small divine imprint array within the divine imprint, and then used these small divine imprint array to cause the main divine imprint to become chaotic. At that time, he would be able to break open the divine runes on this side and create a crack, allowing the people outside to enter. "How long will it take them to crack the pattern?" Lu Li asked nervously. Blood Fairy answered, "It will take some time. The main pattern here is strong. It will not be easy to crack it. It will take at least 7 or 8 days." 7 or 8 days. Lu Li nodded and asked, "Then how long do you need? Can you control the pattern before they do?" "Absolutely." Blood Fairy gave a firm answer. Lu Li was relieved. That being said, he did not cultivate anymore. Instead, he used psychic power to keep an eye on the outside. Dozens of powerful warriors could come in at any time. How could he cultivate in peace? When necessary, He could use all his skills and drag one or two down with him. Those outside were getting nervous as well. They could tell that Patriarch Faye was making progress. More and more silver needles were going in. The pattern in the valley was trembling, and it was obvious. Sui Wachin was the most excited. Her cheeks were blushing. Luli was her nightmare, the shame of her life. If she could not kill Luli, she would never be able to raise her head at the Devil's Sea. 3 days later, Patriarch Faye had put in over 10,000 silver needles. The pattern was trembling more violently. Patriarch Faye stopped. Everyone thought that the pattern was going to crack. However, Patriarch Faye took out a sketch and began to draw on it. He seemed to have forgotten everything as he sat cross-legged on the dirty ground, holding a brush in his hand and drawing back and forth. He should be studying the divine inscriptions. As he studied, he shot out a few silver needles from time to time and even sucked out some silver needles from the divine glyph. This repeated over and over again, causing the group of people to be dazzled. The crowd at the back stopped watching and waited for Elder Faye to break the seal. Many elders sat down cross-legged to cultivate. A few days was just a snap of a finger to them. After another 3 days, Blood Fairy transmitted, "Master, I have mastered the divine inscriptions here. You can leave at any time." "All right." Luli was excited. He was about to leave when Blood Fairy suddenly said, "Master, I can't control the runes here. Do you want to let them in? I am confident that I can suppress everyone." "What?" Luli was taken aback. Who were those people outside? 3 of them were the top experts of Rakshasa Sea. They could kill him with a wave of their hands. How could Blood Fairy say that she could suppress all of them? Luli paused for a moment and asked, "Are you sure? This isn't a joke. There are several top-notch experts out there." "I know," Blood Fairy replied with certainty. "The divine inscriptions here are connected to the main divine inscription of the Flying Mountain. With the help of the main divine inscription, you can trigger the core fire. Once the core fire comes out, those outside will not be able to stand it. Master, my suggestion is to let them all into the valley and then incinerate them. There's a powerful warrior among them. When we leave, they will follow us. They will catch up with us easily. I am afraid that you cannot stop them." Blood Fairy's words were reasonable. The old warrior outside was not weak. He would be here soon. If they were to encounter demons or divine inscriptions and were stopped, the consequences would be unimaginable. That being said, Luli could not afford to be careless. He asked for more details. He was relieved when he learned that Blood Fairy told him to leave the valley first and then let those warriors in. When he left the valley, those outside might not be able to catch up with him. Therefore, whether or not they could incinerate those warriors, Luli would not lose anything. He could give it a try. "Blood Fairy, go and do it," Luli said to Blood Fairy. Then he stood up and said to Mu Yingying, "Young Lady Yingying, can you tell your chief patriarch to keep your family away from the valley? I want to incinerate those from the palace of Rakshasa and the Hell Palace." "Incinerate?" Mu Yingying was taken aback. She asked with concern, "Are you sure? There are so many powerful warriors." "It's okay. We will leave the valley first. Later, we will enjoy the show from the outside," Luli explained. Mu Yingying was still worried. "If you incinerate those warriors, you will be the sworn enemy of the palace of Rakshasa and the Hell Palace. I think their super powerful warriors will come after you." "Ha ha ha." Luli laughed and shook his head. "I am your sworn enemy now. If I do not incinerate them, I will die. When I leave here, I will leave the Ziyang continent. Next time, if I can come back alive, I will not be afraid of the 2 forces." "All right." Mu Yingying was frightened. But this was Luli's decision. What was more, Luli would not kill anyone from her family. Weakening the Hell Palace and the Palace of Rakshasa was a good thing for the Mu family. Mu Yingying thought for a moment. She flew the Dragon Elephant Pagoda up. Someone had been monitoring the situation inside. As soon as the Dragon Elephant Pagoda moved, the patriarch of the Mu family noticed. The Dragon Elephant Pagoda seemed to be flying around in the sky. It moved left and right, but there was a secret signal. It was a special signal of the Mu family. It was a message, "Danger, stay away." The patriarch of the Mu family sent a message to Mu Wanyan at once. Mu Wanyan checked with psychic power and was shocked. What did Mu Yingying mean by this message? Was she telling them not to enter the valley? Patriarch Fei was about to crack the rune. They were about to go in. Mu Wanyan was shocked by Mu Yingying's sudden message. Whoosh! The dragon elephant pagoda suddenly flew to a corner of the valley and then smashed into the wall. Then, the rune trembled and the dragon elephant pagoda disappeared. It disappeared? As soon as the dragon elephant pagoda moved, everyone was attracted. Their psychic power was locked on the dragon elephant pagoda. Seeing the dragon elephant pagoda disappeared, everyone's mind was racing. The rune was about to be cracked open, and Lu Li suddenly escaped. All right. At the same time, Patriarch Fei suddenly shouted. He suddenly sent out divine energy. The rune in front of him glowed and trembled violently. There was a crack on it. Go! Su Tianchan and the chief patriarch of the Rakshasa Palace didn't hesitate. They shouted and rushed into the crack at the same time. Powerful warriors of the Rakshasa Palace and the Hell Palace all rushed in. The people of the Mu family didn't move. Mu Wanyan had sent a message to them, asking them not to move. Many people didn't understand, but no one dared to disobey Mu Wanyan's order. When Su Tianchan, chief patriarch, and the others went in, they were surprised to see that the people of the Mu family didn't come in. Then, something shocking happened. The crack that they came in from was trembling and was closing up quickly. It meant that they were trapped in there. At the same time, the rune in the valley began to tremble. Horrifying, killing intent spread out from underground. Everyone's soul spirit sensed a fatal danger. Chapter 2303. Those that came in were all powerful warriors. Many of them had been fighting for their entire lives and had been through many life and death battles. The sense of danger was especially strong. This feeling would not lie, so the group of people looked at each other, a trace of panic in their eyes. The Mu family did not come in. Was this a trap? Just now, the dragon elephant pagoda was flying around. Was it a signal? As soon as they came in, the pattern healed. It seemed that Patriarch Fei had opened the crack on purpose, to lure them in so that they could be killed. As a matter of fact, if Blood Fairy did not do anything, it would not have been so easy for Patriarch Fei to crack the pattern. If Blood Fairy was the one controlling it, then Patriarch Fei would not be able to crack the pattern for several months. What? Mu Wanyun and the others were stunned. They still had lingering fears. If they had gone in, they would have been trapped to death as well. The pattern here was so strange. If they went in and the pattern healed right away, there would be a big problem. Is Yingying really not being held hostage? Is she working with Lu Li? Everyone in the Mu family was wondering. Lu Li was in Mu Yingying's Dragon Elephant Pagoda, and the Dragon Elephant Pagoda had sent out the signal. If Mu Yingying was being held hostage, how could Lu Li allow her to send out the signal? Buzzing, the pattern was glowing brighter and brighter. Then, the ground began to shake. Surges of killing intent spread out. Even Mu Wanyun and the others were frightened. Step back. Mu Wanyun was secretly on guard. He got the group of people to retreat while he sent his divine perception in to investigate. The people inside were on guard. Su Tianchan looked at the pale Su Yuqin and said, Yuqin, activate the Tianyu sword with all your might to protect yourself. Su Yuqin was the weakest among them. It was fortunate that she had the universe sword. Otherwise, she would be the first to die if anything happened. They took out their treasures or revealed their armors or defensive skills. Everyone used psychic power to check the surroundings as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Buzzing, the ground shook more and more violently. Suddenly, black flame dragons shot up from the ground. It wasn't just a few, but hundreds. Black flame dragons filled the sky, and a terrifying heat spread out. Everyone immediately felt as if they were about to be set ablaze. Su Yuqin was so frightened that she instinctively flew up, but Su Tianchan immediately yelled angrily, Come down, do you want to die? Anyone who dares to fly high in the sky will die. Su Yuqin was so frightened that she immediately flew down. The rest of the people spread out to avoid the flames. Many places in the valley were covered in flames, so there were few places for them to hide. If not for their speed, they would have been burned by the flames. Not good. Mu Wanyun, who was outside, sensed what was happening. He felt a chill down his spine. Clearly, the divine glyphs in the valley were controlled. The flames were controlled by Lu Li on purpose. If Lu Li could control some of the flames, then he could control more. If the valley was filled with these black flames, not many people would be able to survive. Hiss, hiss. Thinking of this, Mu Wenyin took a few breaths of cold air. If everyone inside died, it would be a huge earthquake for the entire Devil Sea. Luo Fian and the old palace master of the Underworld Palace would not be able to sit still. If the two forces suspected that the Mu family was behind all this and that the Mu family had killed these people, would the two forces work together to attack the Mu family? The two forces had fought many times before, but if there was a chance to work together to weaken the other, they would not let go of such a chance. More importantly, no one from the Mu family died. If Mu Yingying survived as well, then it would be hard to explain the whole thing. In itself, there were many suspicious points. Lu Li's Black Heaven Talisman might have been solved by Mu Yingying. Someone, report the situation here to the old master at once. Mu Wenyin dared not to be careless. Such an important matter must be reported immediately. Only in this way could arrangements be made early to prevent more serious incidents. Mu Wanyin was secretly a little excited. If all the people here died, it would be a huge blow to the two major powers. Chief Patriarch and Su Tianchan were the most powerful warriors of the Hell Palace of the Devil Palace. There were also powerful warriors like Patriarch Feng, who were vice patriarchs of the Hall of Warfare. Those who came to the birthday celebration could not be average patriarchs. They were all famous, powerful warriors of the two forces. If these people died, the two forces would suffer a great loss. The other side was growing. The Mu family was already strong. If these people died, the Mu family could be the most powerful force at the Devil Sea. After hundreds or thousands of years, the Mu family could even unify the Devil Sea. Phew, there were more and more flames inside, becoming denser and denser. Black fire dragons darted in and out of the huge valley, turning it into a world of fire. There were very few places that were not covered in flames. Some patriarchs had been burnt and were crying out in pain. They were not seriously injured, but there were flames everywhere. They would be burnt until they were burnt to a crisp. Su Yueqin's universe sword glowed to protect her. She was wearing a robe. Even so, she still felt hot, as if she was about to be set on fire. Apart from several powerful patriarchs, or patriarchs with strong defensive abilities, the others were injured to some extent. If this went on, their lives would be in danger. That was what they thought as well. While they were hiding, they used psychic power to check for Lu Li. Someone even attacked the place where the Dragon Elephant Pagoda disappeared, trying to force Lu Li out. Needless to say, this must be Lu Li's doing. Lu Li was going to set them on fire. To many people, Lu Li was just a nobody. Now, he had dug a hole for them and was going to burn them all into ashes. When this was spread out, the entire Devil Sea would be shocked. This would be one of the most sensational events at the Devil Sea in recent years. But if they could not find a way to get out, they would become the villains in the stories that were told. They would be the stepping stone for Lu Li's unparalleled prestige, and his name would go down in history. After a while, a patriarch of low abilities from the Hell Palace failed to dodge a dragon of fire because he was injured. He was enveloped by the dragon of fire. He let out a miserable cry and then rolled around in the flames. He was on fire and was burnt to a crisp in front of everyone. Hiss, hiss, patriarchs of the Mu family and some scouts gasped. They felt chills on their backs. The more than a dozen warriors inside were all important figures of the Devil Sea. One had died. Soon, there would be a second one and a third one. Eventually, all of them would die. If this group of people died inside, those scouts couldn't imagine it. Would the entire Devil Sea explode? Burn them all to death. Chapter 2304. What? Mu Yingying was still in the valley, but she was in the mountain. There was a tunnel in the mountain where the dragon elephant pagoda shrank and went in. Mu Yingying and Lu Li could both see what was going on in the valley with psychic power. Mu Yingying felt sorry to see the three patriarchs burned to death. She looked at Lu Li, wanting to say something, but stopped on second thought. You don't have the heart, do you? Do you think I am too cruel? Are you thinking that I have been at the palace of Rakshasa, but I am heartless to them? Lu Li said calmly. You may not know the real cruelty of the world. Sometimes when two forces fight, tens of millions of people will die, and many innocent civilians will be injured or killed. There is no morality in the world. The strong preys on the weak. If you are not heartless to your enemies, you will die a miserable death. If I had shown even the slightest bit of mercy to my enemies along the way, the grass on my grave would have grown as tall as a person. I did stay at the palace of Rakshasa, and I took some resources from them. I've even stayed in the Hell Palace. Lu Li continued emotionlessly, but enemies are enemies. You can talk about kindness when you have the ability. What's the point of talking about that when you can't even save your own life? If I don't kill them, I will have to die. Between mercy and survival, I choose survival. Lu Li never saw himself as a member of the palace of Rakshasa. Not many at the palace of Rakshasa treated him as one of their own. Now that he and the palace of Rakshasa had turned against each other, all the old scores were in the past. Enemies were enemies. Chief Patriarch and the others wanted to kill him. He must find a way to kill them as well in order to survive. When Lu Li was young, Lu Ling had taught him that he must be heartless to his enemies. Any mercy to the enemies was cruelty to himself. The valley had become a sea of fire. Everywhere was covered in flames. There was no place to hide. The warriors had to gather together and use their treasures and skills to fight back the flames. Su Yueqin's universe sword was powerful. The glow it released could keep the fire at bay. Su Tianchan and Chief Patriarch both had treasures, so they could fight back. The others barely managed to hold on with the help of the treasures of the other three, as well as their own treasures and secret techniques. If it weren't for the three's treasures, it would have been very difficult for this group of people to hold on. However, as the flames continued to rise from the ground, the group of people were actually in despair. Great elders Su Tianchan and Su Yueqin were still fine, but the rest of them had gloomy expressions on their faces. Their gazes swept across the four charred corpses on the ground, and their hearts were heavy. Su Yueqin's pretty face was pale. She originally thought that she could wipe away her previous humiliation, but she didn't expect that not only would she be humiliated, but she might also lose her life. Many of the people who came this time were her uncles. One of the corpses on the ground belonged to a very close elder of hers. She was filled with rage and a trace of regret. If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have provoked Lu Li. Lu Li used to be the leader of the Hell Palace. If she didn't provoke Lu Li, he could have become a general of the Hell Palace. Then, nothing would have happened. Lu Li, come out. On this thought, Su Yueqin couldn't stand it anymore. She shouted, come at me alone. Let go of the others. I, Su Yueqin, am at your disposal. Her voice was loud, echoing in the valley. But Lu Li didn't respond. Lu Li snorted at Su Yueqin's words. Many might want the body of stars and moon, but he was not interested. Lu Li, come out, come out. Seeing that Lu Li didn't respond, Su Yueqin screamed again. Su Tianchan waved his hand and said, stop shouting. What's the point? Don't expect your enemies to be merciful to you, and don't seek humiliation. Phew, phew, Chief Patriarch exhaled. He didn't feel sad that Lu Li wanted to kill them. Lu Li's heart was never with the Palace of Demons. Lu Li wanted to run away, and the Palace of Demons wanted to hunt him down. Neither side was right. It was reasonable that Lu Li wanted to kill them. They were hunting Lu Li, and Lu Li wanted to kill them. There was nothing wrong with that. What made Chief Patriarch sigh was Lu Li could control the divine glyphs here. The divine glyphs here were powerful. Patriarch Fei had been studying divine glyphs for his entire life, but he was controlled by Lu Li easily. Lu Li's attainments in divine glyphs could be imagined. Chief Patriarch resented Rain Demon and the others. If it were not for Rain Demon, Tan Long, and Ning Ao, Luli would have a good impression of the Palace of Divine Glyphs. If it were not for Rain Demon, Tan Long, and Ning Ao, Luli would have a good impression of the Palace of Demons. What Chief Patriarch didn't know was that Luli never wanted to stay. Luli's heart wasn't even in the third heaven. He was just here to find Lu Ling and leave after he finished his task. A patriarch could not stand it anymore. He trembled and fell into the flames. Then he rolled around on the ground, and soon he was charred. The others watched him die with sorrow. They seemed to have seen their future. They didn't even have a complete body after they died. The fire was getting bigger and more intense. The flames lit up the entire valley, as well as everyone's expressions. This group of people had formidable battle strength and could smash a mountain with a single punch. Yet, they could only watch helplessly as they waited for their deaths. Time moved on. One patriarch after another fell. The Tianyu sword and Chief Patriarch Su Tianshan's protection could only protect themselves. They could not protect more people. The flames here were from the core of the earth. Though they could stand it, nobody could stand it for a long time. Such a shame. Mu Wanyan had been observing from the outside. He shook his head after a while. He observed carefully. The flames could burn all the other patriarchs to death, but not Chief Patriarchs Su Tianshan and Su Yueqin. The flames here were of a lower level. The Tianyu sword and the two's treasures were too strong. The three treasures could withstand the flames. More flames would not help unless there were stronger ones. Luli noticed this as well. He sent a message to Blood Fairy, who replied, "There are no stronger flames. This is the core of the earth. These are the strongest flames. I don't think we can kill Su Yueqin and the other two patriarchs." Luli sighed. He said to Blood Fairy, "Let's go. Can they solve the runes in the valley and come after us?" "It will be difficult." Blood Fairy replied, "That old man who was proficient in runes is dead. It will be hard for them to solve the runes in the valley, unless someone more powerful comes to do it by force, or there is someone more powerful." "That's good." Luli was relieved. He said to Mu Yingying, "Let's go. We must leave the flying volcano as soon as possible." Chapter 23:05. The City of Hell. Just like the patriarch of the Mu family, the former chief had almost stopped managing the affairs of the city. He had almost retired. Over the years, he had been living in a small yard, taking care of flowers, fishes, and beasts. He had been living a leisurely life. The one in charge of the Hell Palace was not Su Tianshan, but Su Tianshan's brother, Su Tianhong. Basically, Su Tianhong would not come to the former chief unless it was something serious. Today, Su Tianhong hurriedly walked in. His expression was extremely ugly. The former chief, who was sitting on the rocking chair, opened his eyes. His expressions didn't change, but there was a glint of worry in his eyes. Something serious must have happened for Su Tianhong to come in such a hurry and with such a terrible look on his face. The former chief thought about it and asked, "Did something happen to the Mu family?" Su Tianhong nodded and said, "Tianyun and the other patriarchs' jade talismans of life are broken. Of the 12 patriarchs that went, only 4 are still intact. 8 are dead." The former chief was surprised. Then he asked, "What about Tianshan and Yueqin?" "They are fine," Su Tianhong answered. The former chief asked with a frown, "They just went to the birthday party. What happened? Why did 8 patriarchs die?" "It has something to do with Lu Li, the traitor that held Yueqin hostage." Not even the former chief master knew exactly what had happened. Su Tianhong explained it to him patiently, including how Lu Li betrayed and ran away, how he went to the flying volcano, and how Su Tianshan asked Patriarch Fei to go there. Flying volcano? The former chief thought about it and said, "That punk doesn't have the ability to fight so many people." Did the chief family do anything? They must have borrowed the power of the sacred glyphs. "I think I have to go in person." "You don't have to go in person." Su Tianhong thought about it and said, "Let Uncle Ming handle this. I don't think it is worth it for you to go in person. We need to move more when we are old." The former chief waved his hand and said, "That punk has been stirring up so much trouble. If I don't go and meet him in person, He will laugh at the Hell Palace for lacking capable people. All right. Su Tianhong saw that the old sect master had already made up his mind and didn't try to persuade him any further. He said, I'll arrange for people to open the gate and go directly to the flying volcano. I'll arrange for all the scouts to report to you. A moment later, the space in Hell City fluctuated and a golden door appeared. An old man flashed through the golden door. Many of the experts in the city were startled. When they scanned the area with their divine telekinesis and discovered that it was the old prefecture lord, they were even more shocked. It had been many years since the old mansion master had taken action. What had happened this time that the old mansion master had to personally take action? Devil Island. The intelligence hall master personally went to Luo Fian's palace and reported the matter to Luo Fian. The Rakshasa Palace's side was even worse off. Other than the great elder, the other 9 elders were all dead. Fortunately, the young masters and young mistresses who went this time didn't follow. Otherwise, they would probably be in danger. That being said, Luli wouldn't go so far as to do anything to Lu Qianqian and Yuan Lingyan. The Rakshasa Palace and the Hell Palace had fought twice. Both sides suffered heavy casualties. The number of powerful warriors had been declining. This time, 9 died at once. All the patriarchs of the Rakshasa Palace were grieved and frightened. Luo Fian came out. She gathered the 3 great patriarchs and all the other patriarchs. She gave an order to be on high alert. Then, she opened the gate and went to the flying volcano with Rain Demon and the other patriarchs. Luo Fian went in person. She was furious. To her, Luli was just a nobody. If it weren't for her, Luli would have been dead. Of course, she didn't recruit Luli because she liked him. She just wanted to annoy the Hell Palace and at the same time, suppress Rain Demon and the others. In other words, Luli was just a tool for her. She had no offspring. She didn't want the position of immortal son and fairy to be given to the offspring of the major families. Luli was a good tool. She could get back at the Hell Palace and suppress Rain Demon and the others. Why not? She didn't expect that this tool would be so dishonest after coming to the Rakshasa Palace. Not only did he cause trouble everywhere, but he also dissolved the Black Heaven Talisman. She felt that her dog had run away. Now, not only did the dog run away, but it also bit her family members. How could she not be angry? Therefore, she wanted to go there in person, capture Lu Li and nail him to death on the Mount of Cyan Cloud in front of so many people. She wanted everyone at the Rakshasa Palace to understand the consequences of betraying her. Flames were still rising in the valley. Lu Li had left, but the Runes Dojo was still active. More than a dozen people had died, and only 3 were left. Sui Wechin, Su Tianchan, and the chief patriarch all had treasures to protect themselves with. Sui Wechin's Heaven Universe sword was broken, but it had been repaired and nurtured by generations of masters of the Hell Palace. Now, the Heaven Universe sword was only second to Imperial weapons. In some aspects, the Heaven Universe sword was even stronger than Imperial weapons. The old master was training Sui Wechin as his successor. Sometimes this successor could be silly, but her body of stars and moon was strong. He believed that after some experiences, Sui Wechin could rise from the ashes and become the real powerful warrior that could support the Hell Palace. Sui Wechin had matured a lot these days. She felt she was suffering in hell, surrounded by flames. Even though she had treasures to protect herself, she still felt she was being thrown into boiling water. The smell of burnt flesh came from the dead bodies. They were her seniors. Many people watched her grow up, and even her parents doted on her. Now, they were dead bodies, no, incomplete bodies. The bodies were burnt. Nobody could tell who they were. Sui Wechin was blessed by the heavens. She had never suffered setbacks since she was a kid. During this time, she had experienced 3 major events in her life. First, she was almost raped by the former holy son of the Rakshasa Palace. Second, she was held hostage by Lu Li. Third, she had to watch her seniors die in front of her eyes. It was her fault that caused this tragedy. No matter how naive a child was, she would grow up after going through one event after another. At first, she kept yelling, telling Lu Li to come at her. At first, She was trembling in fear, and her face was pale. At this moment, she remained silent. She knew that she had remembered everything in her heart. She did not have too many thoughts in her heart, only one. She wanted to be stronger and become a super powerful warrior. She wanted to end the glory she had lost, the humiliation Lu Li gave her, and the blood feud. No matter where Lu Li was hiding, she would find him, tear him apart, and bring his head back to the Hell Island to pay tribute to her seniors who had passed away. Lu Li, just you wait. If I don't kill you in this lifetime, I am not a human. Sui Wetchin clenched her fists and murmured to herself. She didn't shout out childishly. Instead, she murmured it to herself. Her hatred was buried deep in her bones. Poof! Lu Li was flying towards the volcano with Mu Yingying. All of a sudden, he sneezed. He scratched his head, looked back, and mumbled, "Who is cursing me? Everyone must be cursing you." Mu Yingying rolled her eyes and said, "If not, do you think they will be cursing you?" Chapter 23:06. The rest of the journey was not easy. Along the way, they would run into many fire-related demons and beasts. Many places were marked with divine runes. But this time, Lu Li was luckier than last time. He didn't end up in a dead end. There were some twists and turns along the way, but everything was going smoothly. Blood Fairy even altered the divine runes along the way to prevent others from catching up. She sealed off some paths so that the pursuers would have to take a detour. After walking for 4 days, the two of them actually managed to walk out of Flying Volcano. Looking at the wilderness in the distance, Lu Li and Mu Yingying felt they had taken a trip to hell. Mu Yingying's face was pale. Her eyes were filled with hesitation. For the past few days, she had been struggling, but she could not make up her mind. Going with Lu Li might lead a magnificent life, but she would lose her family and parents. She might not be able to come back. If she stayed, she might have to live the same life as before. In the end, she would be forced by her family to marry someone she didn't like, and that would be the end of her life. What is it? Lu Li noticed something was wrong with Mu Yingying. She forced a smile and said, "Nothing. Congratulations, young Master Lu. You are out of danger." Ahead of them was the Plum Creek region. It was not a large place, and it was connected to several other regions. If Lu Li ran away, it would be harder to track him down. Also, it would take time for others to cross the Flying Volcano. Lu Li had enough time to run. Okay. Lu Li cupped his fists and said, "Goodbye then. If I have the chance to come back, and I have the ability, I will do one thing for you. As long as it does not go against my principles, I will do anything." Mu Yingying was a warrior of the fourth tribulation, while Lu Li was at the peak of the second tribulation. One was being hunted by many forces, and the other was the goddess of the Mu family. Others would find this hilarious. But Mu Yingying didn't think it was funny at all. Lu Li was mysterious and strange. The more she got to know him, the more she found him to be unpredictable. It was incredible that a warrior of the second tribulation could kill a warrior of the fourth tribulation. Mu Yingying wouldn't find it unacceptable even if Lu Li killed Su Tianshan. Lu Li had endless possibilities. He had to go to the Flying Fire Continent. If he could get there safely and come back smoothly, Mu Yingying believed that Lu Li would be as strong as a fifth tribulation warrior. By that time, Lu Li could defeat the entire Devil's Sea all by himself. Therefore, Lu Li's promise was significant. Hoo-hoo, Mu Yingying exhaled. Suddenly, she made up her mind. She didn't want to go with Lu Li anymore. It wasn't that she didn't want to go, but she didn't want to drag Lu Li down. After all, she was a woman. Unless she gave up her identity as a woman and treated herself as a warrior, a killing machine, she would never be able to achieve much. She knew that she had a fatal weakness, and that was that she wasn't ruthless enough. In the valley of the Flying Fire Mountain, Mu Yingying knew perfectly well that Lu Li had made the right decision by burning everyone to death. Still, she could not bring herself to do it. She had grown up in a greenhouse. She was different from Lu Li, who was in the wild. She was a delicate flower that had never been baptized by storms, so she would never have the chance to climb to the top. Mu Yingying bowed to Lu Li and said, "Young Master Lu, this is a long journey. The mountains are high and the roads are treacherous. I wish you a safe journey and all your wishes come true. If you ever have the chance to pass by the Devil's Sea, you must pay a visit to the God Shepherd Island. Of course, Luli cupped his fists and was about to leave when Mu Ying, for some reason, grabbed his hand. She blushed and asked in a low voice, "Luli, can you hug me?" Luli was surprised. His heart skipped a beat. Eventually, he put his arms around Mu Ying. He could smell the fragrance of Mu Ying's hair and feel the trembling of the beauty in his arms. The warm and soft feeling in his arms was very touching. Neither of them said anything. They hugged each other tightly for the time for one incense stick to burn. Finally, Mu Ying moved away from Luli's arms. She gave Luli a meaningful look. Then she kicked on the ground and flew away into the distance. Luli stood where he was without moving. He watched as Mu Ying disappeared into the distance. He couldn't help but sigh. Hundreds of feelings welled up in his heart. A beauty's kindness was the hardest to bear. After a while, Luli made up his mind and flew to the north. He didn't take out the god boat because he didn't want to leave any traces. He planned to run away for a while. In this way, it would be more difficult for the major forces to track him down. He put on a mask, changed his clothes, and changed his body shape. He put on his battle armor and flew towards a city. There was a small town nearby. There were too many people dressed like Luli. Luli blended into the crowd and disappeared. After he arrived at a city, Luli changed his appearance and body shape. He changed his appearance for more than a dozen times, and after teleporting for more than a dozen times, he began long-distance teleportation. He had some divine stones with him, enough for him to teleport for more than 1,000 times. Even if he ran out of divine stones, he had many materials. He could sell some, and that would be enough for him to teleport for a long time. He teleported on without stopping. He teleported for 4 to 5 days without taking a break. He couldn't even remember how many times he had teleported. But he did know that he had crossed 3 regions and was about to enter the 4th. There were more than a dozen regions nearby. It would be difficult to track him down. He didn't let his guard down. He planned to teleport again and again until he used up all the divine stones he had. He had enough divine stones for him to teleport to more than a dozen regions. He believed that when he ran out of divine stones, Luo Fian and the others would not be able to catch up with him. Boom! Luo Fian and the others were still in the flying volcano. Under the joint attack of Luo Fian and the chief of the Underworld Palace, the divine pattern had just been cracked. As soon as Su Yuqin saw the chief, she threw herself into his arms, crying. But unlike before, she didn't cry this time. Instead, she was filled with guilt. Okay. The chief patted Su Yuqin's shoulder and said, "If you don't learn your lesson this time, I won't care about you anymore. Just find someone to marry." "I won't," Su Yuqin said with determination. "I will not marry before I kill Lu Li. I have made a vow." Ha, okay. I will go after him and see if I can catch up with him. The chief waved his hand and said, "Tianchan, take Qiner back and make arrangements." Su Tianchan nodded but turned to Mu Wanyan. When he was about to say something, the chief waved his hand and said, "You don't have to say anything. Mu Wanyan will explain to us in person." Luo Fian nodded. Her face was covered with a veil, so her face could not be seen. The chief turned to Luo Fian and said, "Master Luo, our 2 forces have fought a few times, but that doesn't stop us from working together. If we don't catch that kid, we'll lose all our face." "Okay." Chapter 2307. Luo Fian was talking about fate. Clearly, fate was not on their side. It had been too long. It had been such a long time, and Lu Li had teleported away. Even if the Palace of Rakshasa and the Hell Palace were to send out all their warriors and the nearby territories were to cooperate, they still wouldn't be able to find Lu Li. There were hundreds of millions of warriors in the sea of people. Lu Li was in disguise. How could they find him? Luo Fian and Chief Master went out in person. They didn't go in person. Instead, they went to the families of nearby lords and asked their important figures to send out their men to search for clues. Half a month had passed, and no clues had come. Nobody had seen Luli, let alone seen the god speedboat flying by. Another 10 days later, Luo, Fian, and Chief Master left. It was pointless to continue to use favors. Luo, Fian, and Chief Master would follow any clues. Either Lu Li was hiding in a small town, or he had teleported away in disguise. If it was the former, there was still a chance to find him. But if it was the latter, the possibility was zero. Luo, Fian, and Chief Master left some scouts to continue the search. The others all went back. The Rakshasa Sea, on the other hand, was in chaos. Inevitably, the news spread out. After all, so many important figures had died. Outside the valley, there were many scouts from the Mu family and forces at the north. Some of them sent back the news at once. How could such a big thing be kept under wraps? What was more, Mu Wanyan didn't order the news to be sealed. In other words, he spread the news on purpose. He had a purpose. The traitor of the Hell Palace and the Palace of Rakshasa killed more than a dozen patriarchs of the Palace of Rakshasa at the soaring Clouds Mountain. He almost killed the chief patriarch of the Palace of Rakshasa and Su Tianchan and Su Yuechin of the Hell Palace. Such a big event would have a great impact. Once the news spread out, it would damage the reputation of the two forces. If the two forces were to suffer a great loss in strength and reputation, it would be detrimental to the development of the two forces in the future. The Mu family didn't suffer any damage this time. As time went by, the Mu family would grow stronger and stronger. Eventually, they would dominate the Rakshasa Sea and even unify it. Devil Sea had indeed caused a huge sensation. The main reason was that so many famous experts had been killed at once, and they had been killed by a small character. How could this not be shocking? Recently, several major events had taken place. First, Su Yuechin killed the holy son of the Palace of Rakshasa. Second, Luli took Su Yuechin hostage. Third, Luli had 3 top young masters at the Palace of Rakshasa. Fourth, this was the current one. 3 of the 4 major events were related to Luli. Luli used to be a small warrior in the Hell Palace. Not long after he joined the Hell Palace, he became a commander. In the eyes of countless people, a small commander was just an ant-like existence. Now, the ant shook the heavens. Not only did he shake the heavens, he even poked a hole in the heavens. Now, he even escaped, leaving Rakshasa Sea in a carefree and unrestrained manner. Soon, the news spread out that the Palace of Hell and the Palace of Rakshasa had offered a high price for Luli's head. As long as they could find Luli, they would receive a huge reward and even a high position. The entire Rakshasa Sea's people swarmed towards the nearby territories, causing those domain clans to be very nervous as they thought that the Rakshasa Sea was plotting something. Mu Yingying had returned, but she had returned secretly. The 2 great factions had originally suspected that it was the Mu family who had colluded with them. If Mu Yingying showed up in public again, the 2 forces would send a punitive expedition against her. Mu Yingying was brought to the Mount God and met the patriarch of the Mu family directly. A group of patriarchs gathered around, waiting for Mu Yingying's explanation. Mu Yingying said nothing. She took out 7 small mountains from her interspatial ring and put them on the table in a row. The patriarch took a look. His eyes glowed. The rest of the elders were confused. One of the elders seemed to remember something and exclaimed, "Is this the 9 strange mountain?" The old man had already stood up. He strode over and picked up a demon god mountain. He examined it carefully in his hand, after which he picked up all the other demon god mountains and examined them one by one. After a while, he looked at Mu Yingying and asked, "Did that brat give you all these?" I helped him dispel the mysterious heaven talisman and escape from the Rakshasa Sea," Mu Yingying said calmly. The group of people immediately understood. All their doubts were solved. Everything was very reasonable. The patriarch nodded and shouted, "Well done. Lassing, you've done a great job. Let alone 7. Even 3 or 4 would be worth it." Mu Yingying didn't look too happy. Instead, she was a little sad. Would they have a chance to meet again after this? Would this peculiar man drift further and further away from her, to the point where they would never meet again in this lifetime? 7 9 strange mountains. Not bad. Well done. We even killed more than a dozen elders from the Hell Palace's Rakshasa Palace. Double happiness. Ha ha ha. We have one. That makes 8 in total. If we can find the last one, we will have all the 9 strange mountains. This treasure is not just an ordinary archweapon. It also contains a powerful divine skill of the ancestor god. God has opened his eyes. Finally, we have the hope to find the complete 9 strange mountains. We can restore the glory of the Mu family. The patriarchs were so excited that they lost their composure. The hall was filled with joy. Only Mu Yingying remained calm. What is it, Lassing? The old man looked at Mu Yingying kindly and said, although you messed up my birthday this time, you brought me the best gift. Mu Yingying came back to her senses. She answered casually, nothing. I am just worried that the Palace of Rakshasa and the Hell Palace will make trouble for us and accuse us of colluding with Lu Li. What is there to be afraid of? The patriarch of the Mu family said with a smile, I have talked to Chun of the Pavilion of Heaven. We will work together to suppress the Palace of Rakshasa and the Hell Palace. Even if the two families are not convinced, they will have to endure it. They have lost a lot of strength. Ah, that is wonderful. There is hope for the Mu family to rise again. Given hundreds of years, it will not be a dream for the Mu family to become the most powerful family of the Rakshasa Sea. Yingying, you have made a great contribution, but don't go out for a while. Cultivate for a while. After all, we are in the limelight. The patriarchs were in high spirits. They began to discuss the development of the Mu family. Mu Yingying felt bored listening to him. She nodded and bowed before leaving. She walked back to her palace alone. Wait, something is not right. Back in her palace, Mu Yingying remembered something when she saw the maid. When she left, Lu Li knocked Mu Wanru out and put her into his interspatial ring. Because too many things had happened previously, Mu Yingying had forgotten about this matter. She only remembered it now. Mu Wanru was not on good terms with her, but she was still a young lady of the Mu family. She could not be locked up by Lu Li forever. What if Lu Li forgot, and she was locked up for tens of thousands of years? Mu Wanru would lose her mind. Alas, I hope Lu Li will remember it soon. Chapter 23:08. Naturally, Lu Li did not remember this. He had forgotten about this Mu Wanru ever since he threw her into the wicked bead. She was just an average warrior at the third tribulation. He had teleported for over 1,000 times. He could not even remember how many regions he had crossed. Anyways, he would keep on teleporting as long as he had enough divine stones. He was mentally exhausted, but he kept on teleporting. The further he went, the safer he would be. Who knew if Luo Fian and the others would not let him go? After several hundred teleportations, Lu Li finally stopped. He stood in a small city, looking around in a daze. He was in a trance. Whoosh! He dashed into a tavern, checked into a room, activated the inhibition formation, and went into the separation bead given to him by Mu Yingying. He asked Blood Fairy to monitor the situation in the room and fell asleep at once. This sleep was exceptionally peaceful. He slept for a day and 2 nights. When he woke up, he felt refreshed. He took a bath and changed his clothes. He went out to have a nice meal, living a normal life. This city was called the City of Immortals, part of the territory of the Prefecture of Immortals. Lu Li found a waiter and gave him some divine stones to gather information. The waiter in the tavern was good at gathering information. At least, they could know the major events like the back of their hands. Many of the waiter in the tavern were scouts of some forces. After some inquiries, Lu Li felt much more relaxed. There was no news from the Devil's Sea. This place was too far away from the Devil's Sea. Lu Li did not care about the Devil's Sea. The information he gathered was about the nearby regions. His matter should have caused quite a stir over at Devil's Sea, right? There was no news from the Prefecture of Immortals, which meant that the pursuers were not here. Lu Li should be safe for now. Of course, he could not afford to let his guard down. He decided to press on, but he had no more divine stones. He needed to sell some elixirs. He found out that there was a city in the Prefecture of Immortals. It was a famous black market where everything was sold. Naturally, he could sell anything. He did not linger. He teleported all the way. After 4 or 5 teleportations, he arrived at the city of immortals. This city was famous among the dozens of regions nearby. There was a huge underground black market in the city. As long as one had divine stones, one could buy holy weapon fragments here. Luli asked around and walked towards a big black castle. There was a huge skull hanging at the entrance of the castle. This was not a simple symbol. It represented a great power. It was said that this kind of underground black market did not only exist in the heaven immortal realm, but spread throughout the entire third heaven. It was the property of a giant clan in the third heaven. This underground black market also had a very strange name, called Ghost Castle. There were soldiers guarding outside the Ghost Castle. These soldiers had a skull symbol on their armor. Their strength was not exaggerated. They were only at the peak of the third tribulation. Seeing Luli coming over, a sergeant walked over and asked Luli to show his token. How could Luli have a token? Under the guidance of the warrior, Luli went to a small door on the side where an old man was sitting. How do I get a token to enter the Ghost Castle? Luli asked in confusion. The old man said with a smile, It's simple. Either you hand over 100,000 divine stones, or you take out an artifact to prove that you're qualified. Luli didn't have 100,000 divine stones. He took out a piece of elixir. The old man shook his head and said, This is not enough. Luli thought about it and took out the flying sword. The old man took a look and nodded. This is a piece of emperor weapon. It is enough. The old man took out a black token with a skull on it as well. After Luli dripped his blood on it, the old man explained with a smile, My dear guest, after you enter the haunted castle, you can buy or sell anything, but you cannot resort to violence. Otherwise, you'll be breaking the rules. I think you understand. Also, when you sell your artifacts, please pay a 1% handling fee. If you don't, you'll be blacklisted forever. Got it. Luli nodded. He took over the token and walked into the Ghost Castle. As soon as he entered, Luli felt a white glare and he was teleported away. He didn't notice anything from the outside. He didn't know that there was another world inside. After a white glare, Luli found himself in a huge underground hall. He couldn't see the end of it. There were many people in the hall, coming and going, stopping and walking. There were also many shops. There were also many people sitting on the ground with all kinds of treasures placed in front of them. So many powerful warriors. Luli took a look. There were many powerful warriors here. Many of them were powerful, but they were wearing special masks, so Luli could not see their faces. Luli also noticed that there were many soldiers from Haunted Castle patrolling the area. It seemed like they were there to prevent people from buying or selling by force. Luli saw a stage in the distance. There were many strange beauties on the stage. They were dressed in revealing clothes. They didn't look like average humans. Every beauty had a price tag and they were being sold like goods. This was normal. Luli had seen this before. He wandered around and saw many treasures. There were pieces of emperor weapon here. In front of an old man was a piece of golden iron. The patterns and chi on it were similar to that of a flying sword. It looked like an emperor weapon. 500 million divine stones? Luli looked at the price and was confused. Pieces of emperor weapon were so cheap, only worth 500 million divine stones? Luli saw many people gathered around. Some of them were eager, but they didn't seem to have that many divine stones. Wait a minute. Luli tried to sense it carefully. There was something wrong with the golden iron piece. The chi was different. He stood on the side and watched for a while. Some powerful warriors passed by and walked away after a glance. Luli suddenly understood. Fake. Luli's mouth was wide open. This old man was so bold to fake a piece of emperor weapon. Wasn't he afraid that he would be hunted down if he cheated others? I will take it. A young man in fancy clothes made up his mind. He took out an interspatial ring and grabbed the golden iron piece. The old man put away the interspatial ring. He took a look, nodded, and left. I got the 500 million divine stones. I think this old man will change his appearance and go back to selling pieces of emperor weapon after a while. Luli curled his lips. It was so fun to earn divine stones like this. It was a pity that he did not have the skills or the courage. Anyone that could spend 500 million divine stones must have some background. Body refinement elixir. Luli walked around and stopped in front of shop. There were many jade boxes on the shelves. The contents of the boxes were clearly stated and how many divine stones were needed. He saw a few types of body refining divine medicines inside, but they were all extremely expensive. Right now, he could only look at them, unable to afford a single one. However, after looking at it for an hour, he roughly understood the price of the divine medicine. He walked to a corner and sat down. He took out dozens of elixirs and put them on the ground. Then, he took out a pen and paper and wrote down the price. Chapter 2309. The elixirs he took out were not of high quality. That being said, they were given by the palace of Rakshasa after all. What was more, Luli offered a lower price, so the elixir sold out quickly. When Luli sold the dozens of herbs, he had more than 4 million divine stones. It seemed to be a lot, but the teleportation was limited. He could only teleport a few thousand times. Luli thought about it and checked his interspatial ring. He once killed the 3 freaks of Rakshasa, and there were some treasures in there. The divine stones he used to teleport were from the 3's interspatial rings. As he had expected, the 3 of them did have some in stock. Luli found some elixirs and some strange treasures. Luli put them all on display, without writing down the price. He would wait for someone who knew the value to come and make an offer. With so many things on display, he attracted a lot of people to look in his direction. Luli noticed that many people were staring at the piece of redwood he took out. Is this what a piece of treasure? Luli was confused. Some people had come over. An old man in a luxurious robe pointed to the piece of redwood and said, "Can I have a look at it?" "Sure." Luli was not afraid that someone would rob him here. The old man in a luxurious robe picked it up, checked it carefully, and said, "I will take it. 1 million divine stones." Luli was surprised. He didn't know that the wood was worth that much. He was about to make an offer of 1.5 million when a white-robed old man next to him said, "I will offer 2 million for the wood." The old man in a luxurious robe pulled a long face. He glared at the white-robed old man coldly and said, "First come, first served. My friend, this is not good." The white-robed old man said with an indifferent smile, "The one who offers the highest price can go on." The old man in a luxurious robe was enraged. He shouted, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 6 million, 10 million. Luli was stunned. The 2 old men seemed to be at loggerheads. They raised the price to 10 million divine stones. Luli had sold dozens of herbs for only a few million. This seemingly useless piece of wood was worth tens of millions of divine stones. The white-robed elder stopped bidding after the luxuriously robed elder made a bid of 10 million renminbi. He smiled with his eyes squinted. The wutong tree itself is worth 10 million renminbi, and you're thinking of buying it with 1 million renminbi? Hee, it's yours. The white-robed old man left with a smile. The old man in luxurious robe was furious, but he could not lose his temper. Looking at Luli, he said, "How about 10 million? Luli nodded. The old man left an interspatial ring to Luli and left. Luli cupped his fists to where the white-robed old man left with gratitude. He could tell that the white-robed elder did not really want the wudong wood. He only wanted to raise the price to a reasonable price. With more than 10 million divine stones, Luli was no longer worried. At the very least, he could teleport far away. He continued to sell pellets and other treasures. Nothing else was valuable. After 6 to 8 hours, he had sold most of his items. In total, Luli had 20 million divine stones. Let's go. Luli could not stay any longer. There were too many people here. What if there were scouts from the Devil's Sea? He stood up and walked toward the teleportation formation, ready to leave. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Right at that moment, Luli noticed many people were moving toward one direction. There was a high platform over there, and many people had gathered there. Luli could not help but feel curious. He checked with psychic power. 100,000 slaves. The weakest one is a warrior of the third tribulation. Starting price is 1,000. Average warriors of the third tribulation, 1 million at the later stage of the third tribulation, 10 million at the peak of the third tribulation, and 100 million at the fourth tribulation. Hurry up. Next time, you'll have to wait for a year. A tall and sturdy man shouted. A memory crystal in his hand flickered, and a scene appeared on it. The images were filled with people. All of them were tied up by cold iron. They looked like beggars. Many of them were covered in wounds, too horrible to look at. Ow! Luli was taken aback. There were people selling people? The quantity was so large. Most importantly, there were slaves of the fourth tribulation. Who were these people? How could they capture so many people? No, it must be an organization. Luli thought to himself. The third heaven was a chaotic place. It seemed that this organization specialized in capturing lone warriors, domesticating them, and selling them. 100,000 people. This is a huge profit. The cheapest one was at 100,000 divine stones. This was a sky-high price. According to this strong man, 1 batch per year? How many divine stones could this organization make in a year? So shady. Luli curled his lips. Some people had started to make deals. Many of them were from major forces. They must be buying slaves to do hard labor. Let's go. Luli didn't linger. He was not in the mood to enjoy the show or worry about the lives of the slaves. If he was not powerful enough, he would still be sold as a slave when he was captured. Luli walked to the teleportation formation and was about to leave when he heard an explosion. Then, someone cried out in pain. Luli was taken aback. Didn't they say that violence was not allowed here? Luli used psychic power to check. A slave was killed. It was possible that this slave was trying to fight back. Groups of soldiers rushed towards that direction, but after the burly leader said a few words, the soldiers dispersed one after another. Then, the strong man and his warriors resumed their business. Batches of slaves were taken out and put into the interspatial rings of the buyers. Luli was about to take back his psychic power when he trembled. He saw the 100 people that were teleported out. He saw 2 familiar figures. Buzzing, unfortunately, before he could take a closer look, that group of people had been put into the interspatial ring by a purple-haired young man. Luli didn't even have time to look. Is it them? Luli's hair stood on end. He was like a startled beast. Killing intent spread out from him uncontrollably. What do you want? We are in the haunted castle. Please abide by the rules here. Luli's killing intent attracted the attention of warriors nearby. A team leader sent a message to Luli with psychic power. Luli paid no attention to those warriors. He stared at the purple-haired young man in the distance. Luli rubbed his eyes and recalled what he just saw. Soon he called out 2 names, Qin Zhan and Gan Lin. If he didn't detect wrongly, Qin Zhan and Gan Lin were among the slaves just now. They were his friends for many years. He was so familiar with them. I will find out whether they are or not. Luli strode over. The team of patrolling warriors came over. The team leader looked at Luli coldly and said, My friend, what do you want? Luli came back to his senses. He suppressed his emotions, cupped his fists, and said, Don't worry. I know the rules. I'm just a bit excited to see you too. Don't make trouble. The team leader warned Luli again. Luli walked over quickly. The deal was done. The purple-haired young man was about to leave with his warriors. Chapter 23:10. The purple-haired young man had 7 or 8 old men with him. He himself was a 4th tribulation warrior. 4 of the 8 were 4th tribulation warriors. Clearly, he was a young master of a big family. Luli's approach caught the purple-haired young man's attention. He looked over and his face turned gloomy. A mere 2nd tribulation heaven god dared to come close? He was running around and he had a murderous intent? Did this man have a death wish? Luli calmed down after he was stopped. He cupped his fists and said, Lords, I want to talk to you about something. Piss off. The purple-haired young man snorted. Who do you think you are? You think you're qualified to talk to me? Even a warrior at the peak of the 3rd tribulation was nothing to the purple-haired young man, let alone a 2nd tribulation heaven god. Not only did Luli disturb him by running around, he also wanted to talk to him. If they were not in the haunted castle, the purple-haired young man would have killed Lu Li without hesitation. Lu Li was stunned. He didn't know what to say. He suppressed his anger and was ready to talk to the purple-haired young man nicely. He didn't mind, even if he had to give the purple-haired young man all the divine stones he just sold. Gan Lin and Qin Zhan were his brothers. He wouldn't mind spending more divine stones. However, the purple-haired young man didn't want to say another word to him. He took his men and left in strides. Lu Li wanted to chase after him, but the two men who stopped him blocked his way and stared at Lu Li with murderous intent. "Don't make trouble." In the distance, the leader of the Fort of Ghosts sent another message. Lu Li made up his mind and said to the two who stopped him, "Two of the slaves you just bought are my friends. I want to buy them back with divine stones." "Friends? Divine stones?" The two warriors at the peak of the third tribulation stopped Lu Li. One of them glanced at Lu Li and sneered. "How many divine stones do you have? Don't talk nonsense, or I will kill you. Piss off." The purple-haired young man had already entered the teleportation formation. The two warriors followed him, and the group disappeared in the teleportation formation. Lu Li hurried to catch up. By the time he was teleported out, the purple-haired young man and the others had left the haunted castle and were walking toward the plaza. "Tax!" Just as Lu Li was about to rush out, a guard from Haunted Castle stopped him. Lu Li had just sold something, so he had to pay tax. Lu Li threw out some divine stones and rushed out. The purple-haired young man and the others were on their way to a huge tavern. Seeing Lu Li coming, the two warriors at the peak of the third tribulation stopped and stood in front of Lu Li. "Do you really want to die?" The purple-haired youth's footsteps paused slightly, and he turned his face to the side as he said, "If he's courting death, then grant him his wish." An hour later, he got the information he wanted. The Dragon Spring region was a relatively large area nearby. The lord of the region was called Lu Xiong, one of the most powerful warriors of the more than a dozen regions nearby. In addition to the Lu family, the Dragon Spring region had 4 other affiliated families. The Tuoba family was one of them. The 4 families had been managing the Dragon Spring region with the Lu family for many years. The descendants of the 4 families were connected by marriage. For example, it was said that Tuoba Ying was going to marry a famous young lady of the Lu family. The purpose of Tuoba Ying's visit was clear. He was here to buy things for the wedding. Did he buy thousands of slaves at once? Was he going to give them to the Lu family as a betrothal gift? Lu Li was not in a hurry. After all, for a big family, 1 or 2 slaves were not a big deal. Lu Li regretted that he was too hasty. If he had said it in a nice tone, things might not have turned out like this. But there was nothing he could do. Not many people would be able to stay calm. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin were Lu Li's good brothers. The 3 of them came from the second heaven together. At the icy wind valley, the 3 of them ran separately. Lu Li had been trying to find them. Unfortunately, he could not even protect himself. How could he find them? The 3 of them had been separated for a long time. Lu Li had been at the Devil's Sea for several years. How could Lu Li not be worried when he saw the 2 of them all of a sudden and they were sold as slaves? Yes, it must be them. Lu Li recalled what he saw just now and was sure that it was them. It had been years since they last met, but Lu Li remembered their faces clearly. It must be them. What to do? Lu Li thought for an hour and came up with 2 ideas. The first was to use force. He could kill the purple-haired young man and the others, take the interspatial artifact, and run away. Chapter 23:11. Lu Li thought about it and decided to play soft. The risk was too great. The purple-haired young man had too many people with him, and there were several warriors of the 4th tribulation. Lu Li was not sure that he could kill them all. What was more, the purple-haired young man would go back by teleportation formation. He wouldn't fly back openly. Lu Li had no chance to kill him unless he did it in the city. Doing it in the city would be risky. He would offend 2 masters at once. By then, countless powerful warriors would hunt him down. Lu Li had the god boat, but he might not be able to get away. 2 slaves were nothing to the Tuoba family. Therefore, it was not difficult to get them out secretly as long as Lu Li could do it well. Since he had decided to do it secretly, Luli was not in a hurry. He found a waiter and asked him to keep an eye on the taverns nearby. If the purple-haired young man and the others left, the waiter should be informed at once. Luli gave the waiter a jade talisman. Afterwards, Yang Kai sorted out the space ring on his body and took out some strange treasures. He had killed Commander Chow, Commander Long, and many others in Hell Palace before, so he had obtained some treasures. Yang Kai planned to sell them all. He needed a large number of divine stones to buy people over. He had to teleport away with the two warriors. All of these required divine stones. What was more, he needed to buy something. Most importantly, he needed a high-level mask to hide his identity. There were many warriors with special abilities at the third heaven. Nobody could tell what could happen. Luli had to be on guard. If the warriors of the devil sea caught up with him and knew where he was, he would be doomed, not to mention rescuing people. Luli sold most of the treasures he had on him and gained more than 20 million divine stones. That was without selling any of his most valuable treasures. If he sold the Cauldron of 1,000 Transformations, he could get tens of millions of divine stones. If he sold the Flying Sword, he could get several billion divine stones. If he took out the Relic Iron or the God Boat, he could get a high price. Luli spent 8 million divine stones on a mask. Only powerful warriors at the peak of the Fourth Tribulation would be able to see through his face. This kind of mask was called the semi-god mask. It was common and sold in large quantities. The price was not outrageous either. Luli bought one. Back at the tavern, there was no reply from the waiter. Luli had to keep an eye on himself. A day later, Luli noticed that several of Tuoba Ying's men had set off. They went to the haunted castle and came back after 6 hours. The next day, 2 more subordinates went to the ghost castle, probably to buy something again. On the third day, Tuoba Ying finally appeared and brought everyone to the teleportation formation. It was an extremely large teleportation formation that directly teleported them to the main city of the Heaven Immortal territory, Heaven Immortal City. It should be time to go back. Luli hurried to catch up. He changed his clothes and put on the semi-god realm's mask. He discovered that Tuoba Ying and the others had already started teleporting again. They had entered a super large teleportation array. Sure enough, they were returning to the Dragon Spring territory. Luli spent 1 million divine stones to teleport to the Dragon Spring City. As soon as he came out, he used psychic power to check. He noticed that Tuoba Ying and the others had gone to the north of the city and to a huge manor. Luli spent some divine stones to find out the information. The manor in the northern part of the city belonged to the Liu family. Tuoba Ying went to the Liu family. Don't give those slaves to the Liu family as betrothal gifts. Luli prayed to himself. If they were given to the Liu family, it would be more troublesome. He would have to bribe the Liu family. The Liu family was a large family with many rules. Luli stopped wandering around. He found a tavern near the plaza and stared at the teleportation formation, waiting for Tuoba Ying to come out. Luli believed that Tuoba Ying would return to the family soon. By then, Luli would have a chance. As he had expected, in just one day, Tuoba Ying came out with his men. They entered the teleportation formation and teleported to the Spring City. This was the headquarters of the Tuoba family. Luli had learned that the Tuoba family lived in the Cloud Dragon Mountain to the north of the Spring City. Luli teleported to the Spring City and watched as Tuoba Ying and the others went to the Cloud Dragon Mountain. He didn't dare to go after them. The Cloud Dragon Mountain was the base camp of the Tuoba family. If he were to approach, he would not be able to save people, let alone be killed. Luli wandered around the city, looking for a target. After a long time and some detailed information, he found his target, a warrior at the later stage of the Third Tribulation from the Tuoba family. One look, and Luli could tell that this man was a playboy. He must have relied on his family's resources to get to the later stage of the Third Tribulation. He and several people ate and drank to their heart's content in the tavern. There were beautiful girls with him. The atmosphere was foul. Luli was drinking by himself, listening to the man's bragging. He learned a lot from their conversations. After half a day, they were almost done drinking. Some of them carried the girls upstairs to the guest room. The Tuoba family warriors were ready to leave as well. However, Lu Li stood up, walked in with a smile, and said, "Lord Four, have you had enough? If not, I will keep you company." The disciple of the Tuoba family looked at Lu Li with confusion. He took a closer look and made sure that he didn't know Lu Li. Then, he asked with a straight face, "Who are you? Who let you in? You have no manners." "Huh, huh. I am from the family of shopkeeper Lu." Lu Li smiled and handed over an interspatial ring. At the same time, he winked and said, "Lord Four, is this a good time? I want to talk to you about a big deal." Seeing the interspatial ring, Lord Four grabbed it after some thoughts. He took a look and found 1,000,000 divine stones in it. His eyes glowed. He said with a smile, "You are for the Lu family. Sit down, sit down." There was indeed shopkeeper Lu in the city and more than a dozen others. Lord Four didn't care about shopkeeper Lu. All he knew was that Lu Li was here to give him divine stones. Lord Four was from the Tuoba family, but his abilities were too low. He was the kind of person who could only eat and wait to die. The Tuoba family was a big family with many resources. However, the bigger the family was, the stricter the control of resources. Most of the resources would be given to talented disciples and powerful warriors. Therefore, Lord Four was not living a happy life. Now that a big deal had come to him and he was offering 1,000,000 divine stones, Lord Four was cheered up. He wasn't afraid that Lu Li would cheat him. This was the Fountain City, the territory of the Tuoba family. Lu Li was not in a hurry to talk about business. He drank with Lord Four first before he looked at the girl next to Lord Four. That girl was here for business as well. She walked out, swaying her hips. Lu Li activated the inhibition formation and said with a straight face, "Let's get straight to the point. Lord Four, I want you to get 2 slaves out. When you can get them out, I will give you another 10,000,000 divine stones." Slaves? Lord Four frowned. He was confused. Just 2 slaves. How could they be worth so many divine stones? The Tuoba family had many slaves. There were slaves in many mines and farms. Those slaves were the lowest of the low. People were dying every day. Lord Four could get them out easily. Lord Four was not an idiot. He looked at Lu Li with alarm and said, "Do the 2 slaves have special backgrounds? Or special identities? If so, there is nothing I can do." "No, absolutely not. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.